Bada bing, bada boom.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
Nick,
that's the
are you
name of
there?
the Chinese place, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Bow
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bow ding.
All right. I don't know. Nick may have oh wait, he's there. Just
He's asleep and or dead.
somebody throw something at him.
I see movement in his eyelids. So he's not dead yet. I'm not dead yet.
All right, we're going to start the show.
Just give me a shout when you want me.
Oh,
We
well,
tried. We
okay.
tried.
I always want you, Nick.
You're so wanted.
That's a worrying day.
So
Dana.
wanted. We're so happy to have Adam Wright here with us. We haven't introduced you to the chat room, have we, since we started broadcasting? Come over here so that people can see you. All right. This is Adam. He is part of our live audience. Actually, he's the entire part of our live audience.
That's great.
We're expecting at least one other to come sometime during the show. But Adam's going to be leaving because in addition to being a live audience member, he is also going to be our caterer for Flight 278. So we do appreciate that, and hopefully you won't miss. Well, I know for sure you won't miss anything.
No. Nothing important anyway.
I'm thinking, you know what we should do? We should record this.
Record what?
The show.
Yeah.
And then that way, whatever he missed, he can watch later.
We should do that.
Let's do that.
Wonderful idea.
Okay. Why not? All right.
Fantastic.
I might need you to cut out the part where I gave out my cell phone number on.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll start.
I was like halfway through. I know. I was like, that's my cell phone.
Hey, Nick, I'm sorry.
I don't care about the people in the chat room. I know all of them anyway, but most
And
of them
you don't have
my
to you don't have to go into it. Or if you do, I can just lower your volume a little bit.
How's that? Can you hear me good from here?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Maybe a little bit closer, but yeah, it's good.
Good.
Right there.
Hear me good? All right.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
That's
so
a small bottle.
Food is ordered,
Perfect.
and I'm not sure when when the food does get here, how we're gonna eat it.
We'll figure it out.
Kind of like the last time that Steph and I did this together. We just you had to listen to us chew our pizza. Oh boy.
I've got my liquid attitude adjustments.
We better start the show soon because it won't be long before Dana is. Woo!
I haven't had anything to eat all day.
Uh-oh.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah, let's get started.
All right, let's get started. You know what? This is not a perfect show, so we're just gonna go. All right, Airline. Okay, ready? Quiet on the set. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 278. Oh, now what? Oh. These noobs, they don't know how to do this recording podcast thing.
Serious lack of professionalism.
I know. Okay. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 278.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger. 173.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 250 in the Doubletree Suites Hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina. In this episode, a bunch of aviation news, your feedback, and a new Plane Tales episode, turning oceans into ponds. So get all settled in, tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Okay, are we having some troubles here?
No.
Can you hear everything?
Yeah, I can hear everything
Okay.
fine.
What is it that you can't hear?
You can't hear anything. You
You
can't
can't hear
anything
me?
at all?
I hear the music.
You can't hear me.
Now I can hear you a little bit.
That's
Why?
I can hear you all.
I don't understand why you wouldn't be able to hear me because it's all coming through the same signal.
I know.
Do you need a
Crazy.
different set of headphones?
What?
What?
Yeah, why don't we just do that? Yeah. That's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
Now you'll be able to hear.
As long as you can hear me, that's all that matters.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
And I can hear you this way, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, good.
Okay, and what Dana doesn't know is we're going to keep him on mute the entire show.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, take 3 of 10. Airline pilot guy. Ah, shoot. It's like peeking here. Hang on.
Ah, the magic liquid.
Mhm.
Okay. Airline pilot guy, episode 278.
Flight 209, you are cleared for takeoff. Roger. 123.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 250. Okay, you got to stop.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no. This is going to be a mess. We're never going to get this show.
No, I'm gonna be fine here in a second. I'm sorry. It's like, when you're watching Saturday Night Live and someone and the whole thing just yeah.
Jimmy Fallon.
Oh yeah,
moment.
just Jimmy Fallon on every single Jimmy Fallon and they shook his hands together on every single.
Mother of God.
What is that noise I keep hearing? Is that your machine?
It should not be making any noises.
Make no noises.
Put
Put it on the make no noises setting.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't be making any.
Okay. Well, I keep hearing something go. "Ma-da-da-da."
Yeah, it's nothing. None of my equipment makes.
No, we don't. That's a Microsoft sound.
Well, see, this is what happens when you share a computer with somebody.
Excuse
Buy
me.
my own.
Pardon.
God bless you.
How many
I'm
takes
proud
now?
of you.
Okay, here we go.
Proof flies.
We're gonna push through this. We're gonna do it. No matter what
I'm
happens,
not gonna look at anything.
we're gonna do it. We're just doing this. We hear a flask, metallic flask in the background. Oh, I thought this was going to be a really great idea. I was wrong.
It's a great idea. We're gonna have fun.
Anything over the past, I don't know how many years. All right,
Yeah, I know.
Shut up.
Okay.
I'm good.
Is it possible for you to make any more noise?
Yeah.
So what I normally do is when you're in your house or whatever, I can just mute your signal, but I can't do that now. It doesn't do any good when it's connected to an XLR.
Oh, it isn't? Okay.
No, and all it does is make a clicking noise. Okay, here we go. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 278.
Flight 209, you are cleared for takeoff. Roger. 123.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guide Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 250 in the Doubletree Suites Hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina. In today's episode, a Chinese woman throws coins into a jet engine. The EASA publishes crap.
I was doing just fine until Dana started laughing. I was doing just fine. Just fine. You know what I'm going to do? Dana and I are going to leave the room and we'll come back in when you
It's okay.
introduce
It's time to come back in.
us. Nope, that's
Maybe you'll put my nose.
HR's executive decision that we're going to be over here. I'm like actually crying right now. It's... Okay, sounds good. If you have any trouble with it, let me know. Do you have my?
No, he's got
do you
it.
have
I've got his credit card.
my okay. Do you have my phone number in case you have any issues?
And everything.
All right. If you mess this one up, it's on you. That's on you.
Really? I'm doing this by myself? Well, what about the part where I introduce you?
Put it right back.
Okay.
It's never gonna get through it if we're
Okay. God. I can still hear you. They think we can't hear them, but we can hear them. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 278.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger. LA departure 123.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 250 in the DoubleTree Suites Hotel in Charlotte, North Carolina. In this episode, we're going to talk about aviation news, your feedback, and a new Plane Tales episode, turning oceans into ponds. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 278 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. What the heck is that? What are you doing? Is he pounding on something in the other room?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think he's having an asthma attack. But anyway, how are you, Captain?
You know
Jeff?
what? We're just going to keep going here.
Yes, I would.
And apologize for this, but it's all three of us are together. Well, everybody except Captain Nick. He's in London, outside of London, and the doors. Somebody's at the door. Maybe we should just not do the show.
No. We'll keep going.
There's always tomorrow.
There is always tomorrow.
Hey, Mark.
Hello.
you doing?
At least I could
Good
have
to see you.
Liz
How are
here.
you?
Hey, everybody on the video, come here. Mark Lebrowski, Lake Norman Mark.
Howdy, y'all.
Hi, Mark.
And love
Hey,
the
nice to see you.
t-shirt.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm telling
Nice
you,
t-shirt.
I saved it for this occasion.
Awesome. Awesome.
Love it.
If you're hungry, we just ordered some Chinese.
Not hungry
Adam
at
would-
all, thank you.
Oh, good.
Perfect.
Because
He
we didn't
just
order
left to
anything
go
for
get
you.
it. So Adam, the other live audience
Put
participant.
around here, Did you guys, I guess you're already rolling.
Well,
Kind of.
We're sort of. We
Do you
this
want
is
to
how
do
many?
that one more time?
Yeah,
Because I
this,
think now we can manage it.
this is gonna be it. We just have to. It's just not gonna work.
Dana's gonna have to leave again.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter if he's here or not. He's making all kinds of noise
I'm
that's
gonna
still being
shut-
picked up in
I'm
the
gonna
microphone.
Shut the door, and I'll let him out at the appropriate time.
Okay.
HR is.
We had that meeting Tuesday.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, apparently nothing was accomplished.
No.
I think you guys thought I was going to be the food.
Oh no, Adam will be back.
Yeah. So it's nice of you to be able to make it here today. And I'm sure that you're going to find that it was a complete waste of time and the shenanigans that you're going to see.
Oh yeah,
man.
no, I was like, if he's leaving Lake Norman right now, that's a long drive on 77.
So
I mean, with the traffic, it's nothing at all to be here. But
Right, but this time of day, forget it. Or any
where are you
time
from
of day.
originally, Mark?
Brooklyn, New York.
Really? I was thinking it almost sounded English to me. Yeah. That's odd, isn't it?
Never got that.
That's far from being English.
I know. Well, I don't know.
And coffee.
Brooklyn, New York is the only place I speak and people don't say, where are you from? It's the only place on earth that I can go that people don't say that.
Yeah.
I just
All right.
tell people my mother.
Oh, that's pretty funny. Not. Okay, we've tried to do this introduction now, Mark.
Like
What, 4
8.
times or 5 times?
A lot.
All right.
You know, I had,
Dane and I
it
had-
on my phone on the way here, so I knew to come right to. I didn't have to ask where you were or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had sent you a tweet.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't sure if you
so
saw
I
that
was
one.
just listening to you guys live, and I heard you say it from room 250. I was like, oh, they started already.
Yep.
And then I
Kind
saw
of.
it wasn't quite real.
No, we
Yeah.
really haven't. And Nick is just getting
Nick is asleep.
completely
And
unimpressed with us,
Yeah.
even more so than he normally is.
I saw his face.
I wouldn't say that, but you are reaching new heights.
New lows.
New lows. Yes.
So, Nick, I do have a question for you. I know that you're not going to be with us the whole show because it's awfully late there. Would you prefer that we play your Plane Tales while you're here with us, or would you rather us play it after you've gone?
I don't really mind. Well, I'll probably manage to make most of it, Jeff. So just
Okay.
play it whenever you feel you need to, like usual.
I am
Maybe
good.
we should play it right now.
I am over my case of the giggles, so if you'd like to start.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
I am.
Over it.
That's right.
Okay.
You get interrupted by the food, though, right?
That'll be all right.
Well, at least I'll be here to get the dog. So.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, when the food arrives, that'd be a good one.
All right.
All right, perfect.
Here we go. Oh, yeah, that's when we'll do Plain Tales. Perfect. All right.
I'll make it that far.
Okay, let's see here. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 278.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger. 13.9.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 250 in the Doubletree Suites Hotel in Charlotte, the Queen City, North Carolina. In today's episode, aviation news since our last episode, your feedback, and a new Plain Tales episode, turning oceans into ponds. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 278 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast, and I'm Captain Jeff, a captain for a major U.S. legacy carrier. And joining me today live in our Charlotte studios is
Doctor?
a doctor,
Doctor.
a psychiatrist,
Doctor? Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor?
Doctor? Doctor? Doctor? Doctor?
a marathon runner,
Doctor?
a sky diver, and an honorary Miss World 2017.
And
Dr.
thank you
Steph.
again to whoever bestowed that title, because I'm not really sure where I won that, but it's the title I'm the most proud of, actually. Of all
I
of those.
think you should be, and it's so appropriate. Yes. So it's nice to see you again
Nice
in
to
person.
see you as well, and looking forward to a great show.
I am too. Trust me, I'm really looking forward to it. And also joining us from across the pond, not across the pond, we have a professional photographer, a former fighter pilot, commercial airline captain extraordinaire for Acme Red, flying those wide bodies, Captain Nick Anderson.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, hostess. Hi, host.
Hello.
It's it's great to be on the show again. Wow, this is almost a record. We've only been at it for an hour and 20 minutes. Well done, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And also joining us, last but certainly not least, let's do that one again. Didn't have the volume up, right? We have former regional pilot, now Mad Dog operator for Acme Air Mainline, Captain Dana Colton.
Be back at PG Crew. Fortunate to be live with Captain Jeff and Dr. Steph and wonderful Charlotte. Of course, it was an adventure getting here to Charlotte today, so maybe we'll talk about that a little later. But we're looking forward to a great show again today.
We're so glad you're here, and all the bad stuff that happened earlier today, it's all gone. It's all nothing but flowers and
Buttercups.
buttercups. By the way,
bourbon.
that's mine. And bourbon. Ooh,
Mm.
buttercups and bourbon. There's our
That's
show
a
title.
wonderful show title. Someone write that down.
So if this is the first time you're listening to the show, again, we apologize. It's a little crazy. I think we're kind of a little giddy because we normally don't get to be together. Like very few times do we get together, all of us in person. Well, 3 out of the 4, 3/4 of us, 75%. So it's a lot of fun.
Passing grade.
Yes,
amazing.
75% is what I always
It's a
shoot
solid
for.
C.
Average. Anyway, so it's great to be here in Charlotte, and so glad that we were able to coordinate our schedules so that Dana could be here as well. I think he originally had another trip, and then he swapped his trip for this one so he could be here in Charlotte with us today. And so I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So almost.
Yeah. So you're kind of hinting at some bumps, some speed bumps in the in the highway today, Dana.
Yeah. If anything could have gone wrong, it went wrong, with the exception of anything going wrong with the flying of the airplane or the operation of the airplane. But this morning we had very tight turns in Atlanta, less than 45 minutes, and they decided to give us an aircraft swap going from Terminal B all the way over to Tango Concourse,
Nice.
which is a good distance. So we ended up with a perfectly good airplane to a perfectly broke airplane, of course. You know how that goes. And we were a little bit late heading out of Atlanta. Get to where did we go? Myrtle Beach today. That was okay. And then back from Myrtle Beach, maintenance comes back into the cockpit and says, about 20 minutes before departure time, we're going to have to jack the airplane up and replace your brakes.
Oh,
That's nice to know. Look good to me. Yeah, well, apparently they weren't good to them. So they replaced that. And then, of course, the flight over here to Charlotte, we're 35, 40 minutes late. And then next thing you know, we have a 25-mile final approach and slowed us way down. Oh, I have to step back one. When we fly out of Atlanta, it's not normal, especially on east operations, if you're heading east, for them to restrict you to 250 knots. Very unusual, unless it's on the departure procedure. So we're climbing out about 7,000 feet, and air traffic control says, yep, Acme, maintain 250 knots. Like, really? Okay, so now we're late. We're already behind schedule, and lo and behold, now we're being told to stay at 250 knots, climbing up through 15, 20,000 feet. When you can normally accelerate to 320, 325 in the climb.
but did you have a wheels up time or anything like that?
You know, amazingly, that was the one thing that happened nicely.
Yeah.
We taxied out, and they gave us a 10-minute delay, which into Charlotte is nothing.
Yeah.
So coming into Charlotte, they slowed us down way out.
Mhm.
And we proceeded to go down for a nice 30-mile downwind leg, square the turn off, and oh, by the way, we're at 170 knots. Turn the final at about 22 miles at 170 knots. I looked over to the guy I'm flying with, and I said, well, you know, I could actually take a nap, wake up, have a cup of coffee, stretch, get the stuff out of my eyes, and still be ready to land.
You had a nice tour of Lake Norman, I'm sure, though.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a beautiful tour of Lake Norman, beautiful up there. And, you know, flying in, when we met on Tuesday, you showed me the video of your little airport that actually looks like a triangle. Yeah, we saw that and saw your lake.
So you came all the way that direction to go all the way the other direction.
Yes, pretty much. We're all over the place. Yeah, they delayed us as long as they could. Right. And to add the icing on the cake, of course, when you get off the airplane, we had to wait for the flight attendants, which we usually don't overnight with the flight attendants. They usually don't come to the hotel with us. Well, we had to wait for everybody to get off the airplane. Then the flight attendants get off, and do they come right with us to go catch the van? Of course they don't. What do? They go over to Cinnabon. That quite literally was.
Well, it's right there.
What's that?
It's right there when you get off the plane.
It is
right next to the Wendy's, right?
But we want to go to the hotel.
Yeah, you're going the wrong direction.
Yeah, it's the opposite direction from where we were.
Exactly.
And that quite literally was the icing on the bun.
Yeah, so I get it. Icing.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Then I called the hotel for the hotel shuttle to come pick us up. They said 15 to 20 minutes. I said, that's too long. And 32 minutes later, the hotel van finally showed up. So that's the reason, sorry, Nick, the reason why we were a little late getting started was because even though I swapped into this really cruddy trip, just so they could be here with us, and I had a very
I see
nice
how you
trip.
feel about it. No, I'm just kidding.
No. This trip I'm on is not a good trip compared to what I had. I swapped into this trip just so I could be here in Charlotte. And of course, what happens? I'm here in Charlotte, but it was just a very stressful day to get here.
Well, now that you have your bourbon, I'm hoping that things are improving for you. And you're here with friends.
Yep. Well, one sip of bourbon I've had, and I didn't even have time to eat today. So,
Food is on the way.
Food is on the way.
yes, I'm going to look like a ravenous pig going after that food.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it's not going to be pretty if you're watching the video. We
It'll all be
apologize.
recorded on.
I can mute
We're
this so that you don't
positive.
hear the audio, but for those of you watching, I'm sorry.
Well, that's why I have this girlish figure.
Just watch out for your fingers, guys.
Yes.
Right.
You
I'm gonna
could
keep
end
my
up with a few missing.
That's not a hot dog.
What do you say?
watch out for her fingers.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm sorry. Dana's having trouble hearing Captain Nick, but we're going to push through. We're going to push through. Okay. Steph,
Yeah.
how about your week? Have you done anything interesting?
Well, this is actually the second time I've seen Dana this week, as
Oh.
he kind of alluded to, because this trip that he swapped into brought him here on Tuesday night as well. So Tuesday was kind of a hectic day for me, but we ended up being able to go out to dinner just across the street from here. Dana's captain came out with us, and we had some tacos and Mexican food and a couple of beers.
She ate poor taco.
I hate taco.
She ate.
Oh,
taco.
no.
Yes.
Actually, no,
No, that's not true. I saw
you
a
had
picture.
you had tacos. I ate a quesadilla.
That's true.
That's true.
I ate your taco.
You ate taco.
Your poor doggy.
No.
Sad
I saw a
situation.
picture of Taco today.
Yes.
Straight from
From the groomers,
the groomers, wearing a
Very
very,
nice.
very spiffy little scarf,
a bandana.
a bandana.
Yes.
Yes. What's the difference? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure there's a difference.
But
in there, but
bandana sounds really way more cool
yeah,
than a scarf.
it sounds more manly for
Yeah,
my-
bandana.
my
Well,
boy
what was on the
dog.
bandana?
Snoopy.
Snoopy. Yeah. Taco wants to be Snoopy,
He
the
wants to be
flying
the
dog.
Red Baron
Yeah,
when he grows up.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So cute.
So, but yeah, so it's been a very nice week, and
Who else
Uh,
did you get to see on Tuesday?
I did see Miami Rick.
You did?
I did.
Oh,
He was here in Charlotte. He sent me the reason I put off Dana on dinner for an hour later than we had planned on, so I could run over there and say hi. So
Oh,
that was
okay.
really nice. So it was
Yeah, I
nice to
saw
see
him.
Rick.
What news from Rick?
A lot, but hopefully he's going to come and tell us about it at some point. It's not my news to share.
Okay,
So-
well that sounds good.
But
Is he,
I actually do have news to share if that's just personal news.
Yeah.
If everyone is interested. Do you remember back a couple of weeks ago, I took a trip to Charleston?
Yeah.
Over my birthday.
right.
So
Yeah.
the big news is that I got engaged that
What?
weekend.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
And I've been waiting to get,
What?
well, the ring was,
Wow.
nice.
Well done, Steph.
thank you. The ring was being sized. Justice did a very nice job of picking up this ring, but it was a little,
Let me see.
so.
Oh,
Oh.
I'll have to
very
turn it around
pretty.
for the camera here
Yeah.
in a second, and then I delayed a little
Oh,
longer
wow.
because my family was in town the other week and I wanted to tell them in person. So I told them, and I've told most of the people I wanted to tell in person before making mass announcements. So,
Congratulations.
thank you.
That's
And then I
awesome.
figured you guys would like to be here in
Brilliant.
person to see the ring for the
And
first time.
Jeff, you didn't
So you-
spot the ring earlier. What's the matter with you?
I
I
was really sneaky about it.
yeah, I don't normally look for wedding rings on Dr. Steph's hand for some reason.
Well, you can't miss that rock, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, I
That's
don't know how I
enormous.
missed that. Were you
Beautiful.
wearing it?
Well done,
I
Steph.
actually was not wearing it.
Ah, see.
Yeah, you weren't wearing it on
I
Tuesday either.
No, I wasn't wearing it on Tuesday either. And actually, I don't normally wear it to work though because it's hard to put on gloves and
No,
work
yeah.
and it kind of yeah.
Oh, that's
But-
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a date
Oh,
planned
no.
yet? No?
Well,
Okay.
I mean, we've been together for 7 years at this point.
Yeah, so maybe another 7 years?
it might be another 7 years. Don't hold your breath for an actual.
Did anything special happen for the engagement? How did he propose, Steph?
Yes. Well, so you had a little bit to do with it, Nick, if you remember, like a year ago. So it was really nice. He chartered a sailboat. So we went out on a sailboat in Charleston Harbor at sunset. And it was, like I said, it was the weekend after my birthday. So he had little, gifts that he had brought along for just little things for my birthday. But the last one was a book that he had put together with just a bunch of, it was just a picture book basically that he had compiled all these pictures, ordered this book, put it together with a little story, a bunch of stuff from the past 7 years. And then the last 2 pages, he had taken a couple of pictures, mostly within the last year, where it's the two of us together. But behind my back, he's holding a little sign that says, "Marry me." So, and Nick took one of those pictures at Farnborough last year. So
Well, you know
Yes,
what?
I
We were
did.
all
I know you were
aware
all in on
of
that.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
I'm
rolling
sure.
on that.
Yeah,
That was
I'm sure
great.
we were. So
awesome.
So-
I actually
Super
meant to
idea.
bring the book today too, and I forgot it. I'm sorry. I know I'm terrible. I'll show you some other time. So,
Oh, well.
but yeah, he did a very nice job.
Oh, that's so great.
Oh,
Wow.
Congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Super congrats. Wow, I don't know what else to do
I don't
after
know,
that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
I
everything
gotta
else
leave
is going to
now.
be a letdown. All right.
Yeah,
Well, thanks
good.
for everybody
All right.
for joining us today on Airline Pilot Guy, episode 278, a special short episode. No, just kidding. We have a lot more to talk about, but it's not as exciting as that, but it's still going to be fun to talk about. So let's see, Captain Nick, anything interesting happening over there on your side of the pond?
Well, yeah, lots actually. I'll try and keep it short. I did a trip a few days ago, a quick New York. That was going to be a quick. It's a bit like Dana's saga today. I pitched up, no first officer. We were delayed out of London as a result. I picked up a first officer who was due to go to a different destination. He got on board. By the time we got ourselves into New York, I was like parking the airplanes, and it was 90 seconds before I ran out of duty time when I put the parking brake on. That's how long a day it was.
Ooh.
So I was basically watching the clock time down as I taxied in and rattling along, trying to make sure I got in. And, got that ramp controller at New York in the international ramp. I could get up there and throttle them. I really could. They're all just as bad. They're so slow. They held me for an aircraft that wasn't anywhere near getting in my way. And so I sat there for like a full 5 minutes going, I could be on stand now. What's the matter with these people? Anyway, we got on pretty tired when I got to the hotel. As you can imagine, having had such a long duty day. And it was by the time we got to the hotel, it was 3 a.m. New York time, which would have been 8 o'clock in the morning UK time. Had trouble sleeping, and when I woke up, I didn't feel particularly well. Did a bit of work, had an upset stomach, still not good. But then the company had interrupted my short sleep to ask me if I was willing to operate an earlier flight because they had some disruption down at Washington, wanted to move a skipper down there, wanted me to replace them. And I said, no, I can't. I'm very fatigued. I've had a bad night's sleep. It wouldn't be safe. So I cried off that and just got a reasonable night's sleep second night and went home. So that was all fine and beautiful. And then between there and now, my wife has been cracking the whip over my head so that I can try and make my corner of this house presentable, because we've got the lovely Liz Piper coming to stay with us for a few days. She has just flown over from Toronto and landed successfully at Heathrow about an hour and a half ago. She's checking.
She just showed up in the chat room. She got
brilliant. Well, welcome, Liz. She should have checked herself into a hotel now, and I know that Jill is going to pop over tomorrow morning and pick her up. So I hope she gets a good night's sleep. And then she's going to spend a few days with us. We're going to show her around, and Jill is going to take her to see some tennis at Wimbledon. So that is going to be good fun. We're going to have a bit of a get together with some friends and a barbecue. So all looking forward to that, and can't wait to see Liz.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be a lot of fun and exciting for you all to see her and her to see you and your lovely home.
Yeah, that too. And Wimbledon's going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure, for them. So.
Yep, forecast is good, so we've all got our fingers crossed.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, let's see. So I think we're all caught up in our personal stuff. Dave Abbey sent this to me a little while back, and I kind of it fell through the cracks a little bit, and so I want to play it now. He went to some kind of a festival or something, and he heard somebody singing something. Now we'll put the link to the video. This is a hangar door and an airplane behind them. And they're playing a couple of guitars, I guess, and singing the Java Jive. And Dave said, wow, another connection between the Java Jive and aviation. So he sent this clip to us. So thank you, David, for sending this movie.
You got any more
Um,
volume on that, Jeff? It's pretty quiet over here.
You can't. Oh, you
Oh,
know
really? It sounded.
what? Oh, you know why you can't hear it?
Oh, that's okay. No problem.
It's because I forgot to turn on the echo button.
No, in that case, disregard as long
Yeah.
as it's okay for the recording.
You know what? Let me see if you can hear it from this machine. Let's see. Well, this machine probably won't play it because it's a Microsoft Surface 3. Yeah, sorry. I do apologize for those of you in the chat room who can't hear that. But hey, now you have more incentive to go to the show notes when this show is published and to watch the
It's
video.
worth watching the video. It's actually kind of a neat
That's
setup.
actually cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what the airplane was behind. I think that's probably a Cub.
It looked
Was it?
like
Yeah.
something like a Cub, some
Yeah.
kind of a high wing tail
Mhm.
dragger.
It's maybe
I couldn't-
decathlon, but I don't think so.
And I couldn't tell for certain.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone will watch it and they'll know immediately.
Yeah.
And they'll tell us.
Well, somebody watching or listening right now after the fact here, go ahead and click on the movie and watch it. Thank you, David, for thinking of us when you saw the pilots in the hangar singing Java Jive. That's pretty cool. You know what? We should probably contact them
We
and
should.
have them record
Yes.
Java Jive.
We need a copy of this recorded for
Yeah.
our show.
Anyway, oh, you know what? What was it? 2-3 weeks ago when we had the New York City meetup, Captain Nick flew over and I met up with him. I don't know how long ago that was. A few weeks ago, I guess. People were remarking that Captain Nick had said something kind of special on the radio.
Ah, yes.
And so Liz sent me the recording of it, and I kind of edited it a little bit. And let's take a listen to that. Hopefully we'll cross our fingers here and you'll be able to hear this. No, I don't hear anything. Okay, let me try that again. Nothing ever goes wrong on this show.
No,
Ever.
everything's always perfect.
Perfect. All right, let me see. Why is it not playing? Oh, I know why. Okay. Just more work for me to edit. That's all.
Don't try that, Jeff. We know you don't edit anything. I've just listened to the last show.
He always says he's going to edit and
Yeah,
cut
he
things out.
never does. It's all full of rubbish.
Oh, look.
Yay.
Whoa, we have some more beer and we have Chinese food. Yay.
Yay.
And another live audience member.
Yes, Adam Wright. Thank you, sir, for running out to get our Chinese food. That's awesome. Do you have any trouble with the payment? Excellent.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll get that.
Oh, by the way, I reported that my card was stolen and the police are after you, I think.
Police at the gas station.
Yeah.
There's quite something
The
more.
popo.
Oh, really? The fuzz.
Thank you.
The popo.
Popo.
Okay. Let's see here.
What's that? Oh my God, that show. Bad Boys, Bad
Oh,
Boys.
cops.
Coming after you.
Cops.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's
You
too
need
bad
a-
we don't have a
have
recording of that somewhere.
Oh. Oops.
Where is my Bad Boys? So, since we're kind of in a little bit of a technical break,
Sorry.
no, that's good.
We need to get our audience members some beers.
Absolutely, because trust me, the more they drink, the better this will sound to them.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
You could just
a lot
go
more
over there
fun.
for-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why I have this streaming live?
Chat room.
They're using our bandwidth, is what you're doing. So, Dana, are you still having trouble with here? You want to like try one of the other?
No, it's finicky, but I've
Okay.
got it narrowed down now.
Okay.
I can actually hear you,
Perfect.
but I'm getting a little static here and there, but I think it's the connection there.
Yeah, probably is.
And when we go to break and listen to something, then I'll go ahead and go get my other headset and see if it's
Okay.
This is, I mean, it's a
You know what?
brand new
It's
headset.
it's probably that connection there, that little adapter thing that's causing the problem. So I have another
Don't
one
you have,
here
like,
that I
hundreds
can
of those?
swap it out. Yeah.
Yeah, later on. I'm okay.
All right.
We're doing good.
Okay. So now
I have bourbon in
we're
my
just
hand.
going to
I'm doing
pretend.
great.
We're going to pretend that we didn't do anything except when we talked about hearing that recording of Captain Nick coming into JFK. So here we go.
Heavy established 22 left.
Virgin 137 Heavy, Kennedy Tower, good afternoon. Crossway turbulence traffic rolling out, heavy Airbus 330, wind 210 at 6, runway 22 left, clear to land.
Airline 22 left, Virgin 137 APG. Airline 22 left, Virgin 137 APG. APG. APG.
Wow. I didn't realize you said it so many times. Wow.
Funny old thing, neither did I. But
The magic of audio editing. Yeah, you kind of snuck that APG in.
yeah, I always like to slip one in when I can.
That's what she said, right?
Uh-huh.
All right.
That's what
You know,
she
and
said.
I took a note. I took a page out of your book there, Captain Nick, when I was flying in to see Jennifer in Columbus.
What
I did the same thing, but nobody was listening to me. So.
Oh.
You gotta let us know.
That's
You need to let the stalkers know.
It's sad, so sad, with the sad situation, and it's getting more and more absurd.
Or just let us know when it was, and we'll just go back and pull the audio.
Yeah.
Whenever he plays anything, I can't hear anybody. So that's okay.
All
I'm used to
right.
being toned out.
So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with everyone. That was fun. Thank you, Nick, for slipping that in there.
Anything to
That's
please
what
our
she said.
Yeah.
stalkers.
Mhm.
And let's see. Speaking of the APG and people talking about our show, Brand, you may or may not have heard me talking about on my solo show that I did, episode 270, I believe, when it was entitled Old School. I talked about Brandon Gonzalez. He's a new podcaster, has a new podcast out there called Podcasting on a Plane. Podcasting on a Plane podcast. And he had a meetup out in San Diego, and he put it on his latest episode of the show. And I, after listening to it, I said, is it okay if we play it on our show? Because I think everybody would get a kick out of it. So here's Brandon Gonzalez, his show again, Podcasting on a Plane. And let's hear this.
This part I'm about to play for you here is a discussion I had with a woman in aviation up-and-comer and a fellow San Diegan named Serena.
It's like, don't put the beer down, just hold it.
Just, yeah, that's exactly my safety beer.
I'm here with Serena Hart, and she contacted me after hearing about my podcast from APG, and she was excited that that there was an aviation podcast that was coming out of the San Diego area. And since I think pretty much every other aviation podcast is East Coast based, right?
That seems to be the trend that
there's
I'm noticing.
nothing out here. It's crazy. So we're going to do our best to change that. So this is our first meetup, hangout, whatever you want to call it. And we're out west and we're doing this. So anyway, we agreed to meet up and do a little recording for everyone. And you have a few things that you wanted to share.
I do. Yeah, I'm I'm 24 years old. I'm new to the San Diego aviation community, and I've definitely just like dove straight in. And what I'm learning throughout this whole process is the incredibly small world that the aviation community lives in, which is, how I found you. And I think it's great that, you are so close to San Diego. And it was great to find a fellow APG listener because, I never thought I'd be anyone on the West Coast that listens to them.
That's right.
It's been sad. I feel like a little lonely over here.
What are we going to do? We're out here all by ourselves in the West Coast.
I know, exactly. And I mean, you think you got Captain Nick all the way over in the UK. You'd think that they'd go out west a little bit more, but apparently not. There's no California love.
Bummer.
So, we're sitting here drinking my favorite beer, Belching Beaver Peanut Butter Stout. Unfortunately, it's not an IPA. Sorry, Dr. Steph.
That's right. That's how we do it out west.
Yeah, exactly. And so I've had actually some really exciting news in my life. A week ago now, I was elected to be the Women in Aviation International San Diego chapter president.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was. It's been quite the ride. I only moved to San Diego, like I said, a few months ago. And, I joined this organization and, asked to be on some committees. And I guess I impressed the right people. And here I am, shaking hands and taking business cards at airport association meetings. Sorry. So that's been really exciting for me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see, what comes next in this role. I'm much younger than my, the former president, which I think is, making me feel like I have some big shoes to fill. But I think that I could do it. Something that Brandon and I were just talking about a few minutes ago was how the aviation community really is supportive of anyone that wants to join. There doesn't really seem to be any sort of like competition. Everyone really wants to see you excel in whatever career in the aviation world that you want to pursue. So I'm really excited, and I think this is going to be a great thing, knowing you and being able to kind of be on your podcast with you, and also sit around and talk about APG.
Absolutely. No, and big shout out to Captain Jeff and the APGers for, it's a big community, and it spreads into all kinds of other little communities, but at the end of the day, we're all in this aviation thing together.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I totally agree with you. Everybody's always willing to help. Everybody's always willing to, we all want to be the best pilot or the best controller, the best whatever, but at the end of the day, we're all in this thing together, and, helping somebody get where they need to go is the most important part. So anyway, big shout out to them. Absolutely. I'm glad we got to do this. And I feel like we probably have not heard the last from you on this podcast.
Absolutely not.
And your predecessor, we're definitely going to do an interview with her too. So you guys out there can look forward to a great interview that's going to center around women in aviation as an organization and the great work that they do. Yeah.
Actually, something that's fun and exciting coming up. Not quite. There's an event in September that I'd love for any Southern Californians to know about. It's an awesome event put on by Women in Aviation International, but each chapter throws their own event, and it's different everywhere you go. Ours last year was for girls ages 8 to 16, all around the San Diego and Los Angeles area, and they actually got to meet a bunch of the Blue Angels. This year, we are doing an event actually here at the Palomar Airport. It's September 23rd, and the whole goal of the day is to educate young girls about what it's like to be in the aviation community, what it's like to be a airplane mechanic or a pilot or even, a flight attendant. We have so many women from all across the board in our chapter. So we're going to be, holding it's a few hour event, September 23rd. And if you go to www.waisandiego.org, you can sign up if you're interested in joining. And it's a totally free event. So it should be pretty fun. We've got a lot of exciting stuff planned that I can't spill the beans about details, but I can definitely say it'll be an awesome time. So more on that later on, but I just thought I'd give a little shout out to that.
Absolutely. It sounds great. And actually, I think one of my coworkers, one of my controller friends actually usually does a little gig at that too. So maybe that'll happen this year too.
Yeah, I hope so. We just actually had a meeting about it tonight before I got here, and I'm really I'm excited. It's going to be a great day.
That's awesome. So I'll tell you what, if people are wanting to get on that early, how can they get in touch with you?
You can email me directly. I think that would be the best way to contact me. My email is waisd.prez@gmail.com. waisd.pres@gmail.com. My name is Serena, and you can email me directly, and I can give you all the proper links to get signed up for that day.
Sounds good. And if anybody has any issue getting to it that way, then hit me up at the show, either way, the website, email, send me an audio feedback, whatever you need. And I'll, of course, point you in the right direction. I think it's going to be a really fun thing to do.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, this has been awesome. We have not heard the last from you for sure. And I think we're just going to get back to hanging out. What do you think?
Hanging out and finishing our beers.
All right, there you go. All right, shout out APG community, and thanks for listening. We'll see you guys later.
Well, thank you, Brandon and Serena. Awesome to see aviation enthusiasts out in Southern California. And I mean, do you see the common theme here? Aviation, bar, drinking good beer, and we'll have to pardon your faux pas. We're not drinking an IPA out there, Serena. But
it's okay. I don't expect everyone to drink an IPA.
Yeah, I guess
I enjoy IPAs, but there are a lot of other fine styles of beers out there.
Actually, the one that she was drinking sounded pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they have that much in common with us, Jeff. After all, most of what they said made sense.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you very much. And here's another sound effect for Captain Nick's statement.
What about the toilet flushing? That would have been better.
The toilet flushing, yes. So anyway, check out that if you haven't already. I know, like, do you need another podcast to listen to? Well, I think you do. It's called Podcasting on a Plane Podcast. By the way, I have a little picture on Brandon's Facebook page, Podcasting on a Plane. And it's a picture of him sitting in an airline seat with the tray table out, and he has his mixer and his microphone, and he's actually podcasting on a plane. I love it. That's very, very clever. So good luck with the podcast. I'm really enjoying listening to it. And hopefully I'll get a chance to meet up with you, Brandon, and Serena one of these weeks, months, whatever, in Southern California. I'm sure I'm going to be out there, a few times this year. All right. Speaking of meetups, I met up with this guy named Steve Horn. You may have heard of the segments that he sends in occasionally called HIGH, How I Got Here. Very, very well produced interviews that he does. And he said, hey, I'm going to be in Atlanta, and I see that you might be home. Why don't we get together? And so I saw him just a few days ago while he was on layover in Atlanta. So let's take a listen to that. And we'll listen to everybody typing as well.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Here we go. So I'm here with Steve Horn, Captain Steve. He's the guy that does these awesome, superbly produced bits, or I'm not sure what you'd call it, but hi, not hi, hello, but HIGH, How I Got Here. The last one being the one that he did with the African pilot. Well, I guess he's not African. I guess he was born in Africa, but he's an American citizen, right? So an African American, Bassoon, okay. And very, very entertaining. And we're always so impressed with those when you send them to us. I guess that was number 7. And we're looking forward to no pressure. But we're looking forward to hearing more of those. And Steve and I were sitting here at the Mellow Mushroom on Virginia Avenue, just to the northwest of the Atlanta International Airport. He's on layover here. And so we decided to get together while he was here in town, and we were discussing how he does these recordings of How I Got Here. So let me ask you a couple of questions. So this is something that you're interviewing your first officer. We never hear of you in these little bits that you do. So tell us how these are done.
That's mildly intentional that you don't hear me. As we're flying, talk to these guys and hear their stories of how they got to where they are. It started probably a couple of years ago when I first upgraded. Flew with a couple of first officers that had just crazy stories of how they got to where they are. One guy was a refugee from Sudan, came over with a mission group when he was a kid and wound up as one of my first officers. The other guy was a refugee from Cuba who at 9 years of age came over on a raft with his family. And of course, the question comes up, how did you get to where you are now? And they tell the story of how they get there. And I thought it would be an interesting bit to do and share with the APG community, because there are so many people that have that question of like, wait, you're a pilot. How did you do it? What did you do? And so just interesting stories. And I say, hey, you guys want to record something here? And I kind of play some of the show and play some of the bits that I've done up to that point. And they're like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. They a lot of times don't know what they're getting into, but it's always a lot of fun.
So I wonder how many of these actually go back and listen to the show that they're featured on. But do you know that?
Usually I'll send them, when I hear that it's coming on, Jeff sends me a letter saying, hey, they're coming up. We're going to play this one on episode whatever. So I'll send them a message. Hey, check out episode 270 or whatever it is. And most of them are pretty excited about it. And I would hope they go and listen to it. So
you were telling me, you're kind of hinting that that you don't always just ask them questions and they just start telling their story. So how do you do that?
Literally, it's just in the airplane, we're talking and they tell about some story of flying in Africa or ferrying airplanes overseas and having, windows blow out and whatever. And you're like, oh man, that's crazy, And so then when I, later on in the hotel deck, hey, come on over to the room and we'll set up the mics and I'll just be like, hey, just tell that story, and they'll literally just start telling their story. And then I'm like, okay, let's go back and we'll do, let's do another take of that one. And, and they'll embellish a little more, tell it a little bit clearer or something like that. And we kind of just walk through. It's usually a couple hours of time that we spend recording and talking through the stories and kind of coming up with a logical sequence of how they did what they did. And then I'll go back in, over the next few days and weeks in the case of Bosoons, where I'll just go in and start cleaning them up with, I don't know, grammatical, what is it called when you say, or just stuff like that. I try to tell them, hey, when you're talking, if you can't think of anything, just stop, just leave silence in there. And then what I can do is go back in and cut that whole silence out and bring it right together. And it just sounds like they just continued on talking. So
I wish that I could do that. I started doing this in 2009. And when I started doing my show, I'd go through there and I'd cut out every single, and I finally got to the point where I'm never going to learn not to do this. So I hope that people understand that that's just the way I talk. And, so it's just my brain trying to keep up with my mouth or vice versa. I'm not sure which is more accurate, but I think that, and occasionally I'll still go through there and clean up some of those, but it would take me forever to edit a 3-hour show with me going, because I do a lot of it. So what kind of, you said you go to your hotel room and you set up the microphones. What kind of equipment are you using?
I'm just using my MacBook Pro into GarageBand, and I have an EV RE20. RE20? Yeah, I got a couple of those. They were my dad's. He was a radio type of guy. So these are those radio microphones, and plug those into the computer, and we'll just set them down on a little tripod that I have and record. And they work out really good. And those mics, the size of them and the metallic nature of them really show up in the X-ray machines going through TSA. And I get a lot of delays with my bags coming through the X-ray machine. The people looking at the screen, I'm going, microphone, and they're like, oh, that's what that is. Okay, you do karaoke on the side? No, I don't. It's for a podcast. The Airline Pilot Guy. You should look it up.
That's so funny because I get the same thing. They go, they pause. They can tell the belt has stopped. And I go, I have a bunch of audio equipment and microphone. I go, and they say the same thing. Karaoke? No. No karaoke. Podcasts. And then usually they get that blank stare. Podcast. Although more recently, most people have heard of a podcast, which I couldn't say a few years back. They go, a pod, and that's a internet radio. And they go, and they still kind of like, okay, whatever. Move on. Next. But anyway, I love discussing the process and the production of these great audio interviews that you do. And they add so much to our show. And I say our show, not my show, because it really is not my show. It's just I happen to be the guy that started it, but it's all of the crew. It's people like Steve that send us in awesome stuff to play for the community, and it's all of you out there listening right now, the community. Whether you contribute to the show or you don't contribute to the show, and when I say contribute, I mean contribute content, contribute money, or both, or if you're just listening to the show, I mean that is contributing to our show, believe it or not. And going to the meetups and all that kind of stuff. So it's just I'm very blessed to have so many people so involved in this thing that we call the APG. And Steve, you're one of those that I just feel like, wow, God really blessed me that you just on your own. I never asked you to do this. You said, hey, you just sent it to me, and I went, oh, wow, listen to this. This is awesome. So we're hoping. I think I can speak for everybody. We're hoping that you'll continue to send in and do these wonderful productions, and we're also hoping that one of these days you'll fly for Acme, and then maybe we'll do a show together. And who knows? We'll do one of these How I Got Here's with me featured or something. I don't know. We'll see. But of course, everybody listening to the show already knows how I got here, so that wouldn't be very interesting. Oh well. Anything else you'd like to say before we go?
Not much. Just like you were saying, it's a big community. I run into people every once in a while that listen to the show, that have been a part of it. I'm pushing my first officers over to you guys all the time, and I started listening episode 70-ish right before I upgraded to captain a couple of years ago, and what it was then to what it is now is amazing to have seen it and been able to watch it, and it's just an amazing community to be a part of.
Well, thank you, Steve. Appreciate everything you do as part of this APG, and hopefully we'll get together again soon.
That's a good point. Are you guys still hearing me? Tell me if you can hear me, and we can carry on with the show. Oh, you can. Excellent. Right. Well, I'd just like to welcome you to the Old Pilot Show. And it's a delight to be on. This show hasn't been going for very long, as you probably realize. In fact, this is my first one. So what do you think of the first 30 seconds? Yeah, an old man eating. That's very good. You guys are so funny. Yeah, you're really making me crease up here. Congratulations. It's been a long time since anyone's been able to make me laugh that hard. So it's a delight to be on board with all you weird people who like aviation. You know, you are amazingly weird. Anyone who just sits all days and watches airplanes, that puts you in the weird category. Just thought I'd let you know that. I wouldn't want to put you off or anything, but yeah, it's all a bit sad. Anyway, you just keep watching because, you know, we need weird people in this world. There are too many of us normal ones. So we got to have a bit of a balance there, really, haven't we? Otherwise, the world would tip over. And, oh, hello. Here's a butterfly. No, it's a Buttercup's back. Hello, Buttercup. Did Dana sit on the computer or something?
Ouch.
Oh. That's just not fair. I don't know what happened.
Sorry, Dana.
All of a sudden, the computer just
Like it just froze.
It was like
and
a
it was like-
Microsoft thing. It was a blue screen, literally a blue screen that said name and password, and it restarted.
Whose name and password did you put in?
I put in my username and password, and I put in Buttercup. I've never seen that happen before. I just don't know what to tell you.
Well,
Sorry about
me
that.
in the chat room were having a nice little show on our own.
Yeah, we heard that because Mark had his had the feed going on his phone, and he just bumped up the volume, and we were listening.
Oh, damn! I could have made something, said something really rude. So many I'd known.
Oh boy, this has been quite the broadcast. Okay. So thank you again, Steve, for the How I Got Here segments that you send in. I believe you sent in 7 total already, and no pressure, as I said in the meetup with him. But whenever you get around to doing another one,
We're all waiting.
Always love it. And
Oh,
consume it.
absolutely. Yeah. They people like plain tales, but quite honestly, I listen to every one of those. How I Got Here. Excuse me. And I just love them. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, in my throat. It's making me very emotional.
Oh, that's nice. Oh.
Actually, I think it was a nut. Got nuts in my throat. That's a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very
Awkward.
sad.
Mostly awkward.
That's not what I was going to play.
Gonads are useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute for brains.
Okay, let's see. So, speaking of meetups, we have several planned for next month. Let's see, tomorrow in Pittsburgh, if you happen to be listening live, by the time you hear this, it's going to be too late. But if you're listening live, I'm meeting up with Paul from Warren, Ohio in Pittsburgh tomorrow. And if you wanted to join us, we'll be meeting up around 5 o'clock in the Market Square area, probably. So contact me if you're interested in joining us. July 6th in Portland, Maine, I'll have a layover there, and I'm planning to meet up with Micah, maybe record in his recording studio there in beautiful Portland. And I know that we have a few others that live in the Portland area. I believe, was it Mark, Main Man Mark? I know it's not the same as Main Man Micah, but I believe he sent us feedback before and said if we're ever in the area that he'd be interested in meeting up with us. So if you're listening to this and you are interested in, or you live in that area and want to meet up with some aviation geeks, check us out. Follow us on the APG crew Twitter address or Facebook or Slack. Don't forget Slack. July 11th in Baltimore, Maryland. I think Hillel and a few others are already kind of coordinating this meetup. And so again, that's July 11th in Baltimore, July 21st in Columbus, Ohio. I believe that somebody in the chat room right now is going to be there at that meetup, Jen, and hopefully you, if you're in the area as well. And then I have a trip on the latter week of the month. I believe it's the last trip that I have of the month, or maybe it's the second to last. Anyway, on July 26th, I'm going to have a all-day layover in Madison, Wisconsin. And it's one of these trips that I don't normally like to fly. It flies late at night the first night, late at night the second night getting into Madison, but I'm off all next day, all Wednesday. That happens to be the week that Oshkosh is going on. And so if I do actually fly this trip, I'm most likely going to rent a car and drive up to Oshkosh. So maybe I'll be able to see some of you. I know many of you listening to the show right now are planning on attending the EAA Air Adventure. So maybe I'll get to hang out with you guys, and you can show me around Oshkosh. I've never been.
It's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've been several times.
Oh, neat.
3 actually.
Excellent.
Good time.
So
All
that's
right.
quite a few meetups there.
Yeah, I'm not sure when I'm going to have time to do anything else. Oh, and then you're going to be in Atlanta on the 4th of July running the
Peachtree
Road Race.
Yes.
Yeah. Are you going to be there just on the 4th?
Just on the 4th. I've got to work Monday and Wednesday.
Oh.
So, yeah, I'll probably be getting in late on Monday, so nothing's going to happen then. But if you're in Atlanta and you want to come down to the finish line and cheer for us, that'd be, I don't know how else to get in touch with people. And I'll probably be actually busy with the friends that I'm going to be with. But yeah, I'll be running the race that morning.
It's my oldest daughter's birthday that day. I'm not really sure exactly what I'll be doing, but if I'm able to extract myself from everything that's going around in the house,
it's early in the morning.
That's right. Yeah, it's usually an early race.
I won't be around. Sorry,
That's
I'm working.
Oh, bummer.
Oh, on the 4th?
Yeah, we don't even want to get into that.
Okay. Well, by the way, the pilot that I'm flying with today, the co-pilot, he's only been with our company 6 months. He has a bid for captain on the MD-88 in Atlanta. He's going to convert in October or November. Just thought I'd throw that at you.
And Dana's day has been so wonderful so far. You had to add that to his.
Oh, now he's drinking heavily again. This whole world that we're living in right now is just completely upside down. I'm not understanding it at all. But
if I'd known it was going to be that long,
yeah,
or there's going to be that many awards, I wouldn't have done it the way I did it.
Yeah. Oh well. Maybe you can get in there earlier.
Yeah. Supposedly I'm a captain now. I don't go to training until next May.
Next year. Yeah, I know.
Meanwhile, the guy that hasn't even been he's still on probation, and he's only been with our company for 6 months, is going to go to training before Dana.
I don't get that.
I don't get, I just,
yeah,
this whole thing with these new hires becoming captains.
I know.
I just
hope that they don't screw anything up.
They don't have the training diapers off yet.
I know. And all the rest of us can do is just hope that they won't mess up. All right. Let's see. I think it's now time, unless you have anything to add, Captain Nick, if you're still with us.
No, I left a long time ago.
Okay, good. I think it's now time for us to quickly talk about the coffee fund. The karaoke version.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love the Java and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
All right.
I love Java, sweet and hot. Whoops, Mr. Moto, I'm a coffee pot. Shoot me the pot and pour me a shot.
A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. And while Dana serenades us in the background, we're going to talk about or maybe not, Airline Pilot Guy, Java Jive Coffee Fund. I'm glad that you said that, not me. Anyway.
I have a day job for a reason.
So the reason why we're playing the Java Jive not the Inkspot version, because those of you in countries around the world that had their video blocked a couple episodes ago,
Sorry.
I'm not going to take that chance anymore. So I don't think we're going to hear the Inkspots anymore. Yeah, that's a sad story. But anyway, the Java Jive is what we play in the background because we have this thing called the Coffee Fund, where you can contribute to the show financially. And if you have the resources to do so, head over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee. There you'll find a couple different ways to contribute to the show. We have the classic method via PayPal. If you want to just do a one-time contribution or a recurring contribution, you can do that with PayPal, the classic method. Also, something called Patreon. You can become a patron of the show, and you pledge a certain amount per episode, and several of you out there have done that, and we do appreciate that. And let's see, since the last episode, we have Steve Trumbull, his recurring contribution via the Coffee Fund Classic method. And we have a new, actually not new, he was already a patron, but he bumped it up from the $1 to $5 per episode level. So now he's an executive producer of the Airline Pilot Guy show. So thank you very much, Eric, for doing that. And if you, again, want to check out how you can contribute to the show, become part of the Coffee Fund cadre, head over to airlinepilotguide.com/coffee. And thanks a lot. Okay, the first thing I'd like to talk about, first thing in our news folder, is a little incident that happened over at Dayton International Airport. They had a air show last weekend, I believe, and the headline performer were the Thunderbirds, or they were supposed to be anyway. I believe it was Friday, the day before the Saturday air show. There was a little incident that occurred with one of the Thunderbirds, Thunderbird 8 actually, and let's take a listen to the ATC recording.
Thunderbird 8, Dayton Tower, runway 6 left, clear to land, runway 6 left, RVR, greater than 6,000.
All right, and the overrun.
Okay, that was a transmission from Thunderbird 8.
04, advise that Dayton is closed right now due to a aircraft accident. Advisor, stay in 10.
Okay, do you know how long they'll be closed for?
That's just going to be quite a while.
All right, that's a little bit of the ATC audio from the incident. They were landing on runway 6 left, and the weather at the time was not good. It was raining heavily, and some gusty winds as well. And they somehow it got off the runway, they left the runway, and ended up flipping the airplane upside down. And it rested upside down for quite some time before rescuers were able to extract the two crew members. This is the F-16D model, the two-seater. And we have a little bit of audio from the press conference given by, I believe, the airport director.
Good afternoon. My name is Terry Slayball. I'm the Director of Aviation for the City of Dayton. The City of Dayton owns and operates the Dayton International Airport. At approximately 12:30 today, we had a accident on the airport. The accident involved one of the aircraft, one of the performing aircraft that was going to be in the air show this weekend, and involved two members of the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds team. Our airport fire department responded to the accident, along with a number of other personnel from the City of Dayton, and other fire departments and emergency personnel. We did assist the 2 victims of the accident that were on the aircraft. It did take an inordinate amount of time to remove the two occupants of the aircraft and transport them to Miami Valley Hospital. I think the second occupant of the aircraft was extracted and transported almost 2 hours after the accident occurred.
Okay, so that's a little clip of the press conference there, and they brought some people over from Wright-Patterson. There were also the very large support contingent of the Thunderbirds there at Dayton that came over to help assist with this as well. But I guess you just can't go over there and just get a bunch of people and flip the thing over like that Spitfire that we saw at that air show in Scotland, I believe. This is a little bit heavier airplane, I believe around 25,000 pounds. And of course, they have to be careful about certain aspects of this fighter before they can turn it right side up. But fortunately, I believe he may have mentioned just now in this clip that the pilot, the Thunderbird performer, had some lacerations, but no really serious injuries. And I think the backseater didn't have any injuries at all.
Yeah. Well, very fortunate.
Yeah. So unfortunately, they had to cancel their performance on Saturday and Sunday. But I'm sure that it was a great air show anyway, even without the Thunderbirds. I think Captain Al would probably agree to that as well.
Captain Al
We
loves
know he
that.
loves
Captain Al loves the Thunderbirds.
We know he loves the dead sparrows, doesn't he?
So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened here. They didn't really give us much information except that there was a runway excursion. And I guess when it hit the soft surface of the non-paved area of the runway area, it just flipped over. Probably just dug in and then ended up. But it ended up.
Yeah, if it was raining and it's definitely a grassy area, so it
Mhm.
could have been really soft.
Yeah, if you look at the photo of it, the tail, it looks like
Even dug into the.
it dug in and
Mhm.
kind of supported the aircraft, not allowing the cockpit to get crushed.
Well, you know what the unofficial nickname of this airplane is?
I do not.
Lawn dart.
Oh, jeez.
That's true. Am I correct, Captain Nick?
Well, in the early days, they definitely used to be called the Texas lawn darts because I think a lot of the guard guys flew them down there, and they were regularly planting them in the desert.
Yeah. Yeah. When the engine quits, you just you leave the airplane and it becomes a lawn dart.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Anyway, so when we hear more about exactly what happened here, we'll definitely bring you up to date. Yes.
F-104, F-111 that you flew.
I flew the C-141 4-engine high-wing transport.
Oh.
Close.
Very
close.
very- no coconut.
Was that you then, Captain Nick?
Well, I flew fighters, but not the F-16. No, I flew the F-4. Is that the closest you've got so far?
It starts with an F.
Okay.
Yeah.
F-18.
And the F-18.
I fly with so many different guys that fly so many different pieces of equipment. Like the guy I'm flying with right now flew the F-111. That's what I was asking.
Ah, okay. No, I didn't.
And I'm hoping he's going to actually stop by to say hello.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we hope so too.
Well, ask him what that pig was like to fly.
He loves it.
One of my least favorite people in the world flew the F-111.
Ah.
Okay, anyway.
Moving on. We'll find out that story later on.
No, I hope that's not the person. Hang on, let me put this on mute for a second. Okay, good. It was one of my old bosses.
All is well.
I could lip read that. Do you want me to tell everyone what you
No,
said?
I don't. Thank you very much. All right. So let's see. Let's continue with. We talked about this. I believe it was on the last show. We were talking about Jennifer Lawrence, the incident with the beach jet. We were calling it the dual engine flameout because every single story said that the one engine failed, and then they diverted into Buffalo, New York, and then on landing, whatever that means, the other engine failed. Well, I found this update on the the flame out. The Beechjet 400A operated by Travel Management Company, and their call sign is Trailblazer. For those of us who are out there flying around and you wonder who the heck a Trailblazer is. Let's see. This incident marked the 5th engine flameout involving a Beechjet, including 3 dual flameouts of this type. According to the Travel Management Company CEO Scott Wise and VP of Operations Chip Schultz, the left engine flamed out at cruising altitude. The pilots made 2 in-air restart attempts before diverting to Buffalo. Though it is widely reported that the right engine flamed out on short final to Buffalo, Wise told the Aviation Information Network, was it Aviation? Is that AIN? Aviation something, AIN, told them that this was not the case. They landed and taxied to the ramp, he said. Wise suggested that perhaps the story originated with a passenger mistaking the sound of the engine powering down for landing as an engine failure. Because there was a celebrity on board, multiple entertainment-related news outlets posted accounts of the incident, including the erroneous account of a double flameout. The right engine never quit, and it was a textbook single-engine landing. He said that they are conducting an internal investigation of the left engine failure in cooperation with the FAA probe. And I think that we talked about the fact that it was probably ice crystal icing, which has been the culprit in the other flameouts of this particular type and that particular engine. And I'm sure that they're going to find that that's exactly what happened in this case as well. But again, it was not a dual engine flameout. It was a single engine flameout. And I guess, you know, if you're going to call the airplane, the engine shutting down when you arrive at the gate as a flameout, well, okay, dual engine flameout. But no,
that's an intentional flameout.
Exactly.
Yes.
But is a flame out? That's part of our checklist. Flame out, check.
Yes, check.
So I just wanted to update you all on that.
It's amazing. It's amazing how people that are not in the business have no clue what they're talking about.
And they can pass it along as fact.
Yes,
Like
pass it along as fact, and it's sensationalized. Everything is always so sensational when it comes to airplanes.
Wow. Did you here several of you listeners sent in links to various places involving this story of an AirAsia X A330-300 down in Australia. They were performing a flight from Perth in West Australia to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And they were at flight level 380, about 200 nautical miles southwest of Learmonth. Is that Learmonth? Is that the way you pronounce that, Captain Nick?
Learmont, I think.
Learmonth, okay. Western Australia, when the left-hand engine, a Trent 772, suffered a blade fracture, ingested the blade, resulting in severe damage in engine core and severe vibrations. The crew shut the engine down, drifted the aircraft down to flight level 200, and returned to Perth for a safe landing after about 2 hours past the engine failure. Got a little bit of audio. This is actually from a video. I'll put the link to that video in the show notes, but here's some audio from that.
And also, please listen to the briefing. Our survival depends on your cooperating. Hopefully, everything will turn out for the best.
Sounds like a washing machine.
Yep.
Okay, so that's a little clip of the captain making a PA. Hopefully everything will turn out for the best.
Yeah, it's not very inspiring, is it?
Not very.
Was this the guy who was also like, say a prayer and
yeah, so that's one of the reasons why this became such a major news item, is because he actually went on there. Now we don't have audio of him doing this, and I didn't see any video of him actually saying this on the PA, but apparently several passengers said he came on there and said, please pray, because you're in a bad situation.
But you got to hope for the best.
Yeah, well, you got to hope for the best, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Passengers reported a large bang was heard, followed by severe vibrations and sounds like a spinning washing machine. They were instructed to brace for landing. And so now there's another picture from Twitter that I'm going to put on or in the show notes. Shows a picture of the engine, and you can clearly see that that inlet guide vane, one of the big honking inlet guide vanes.
That's the first stage.
Oh, the first stage compressor. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the first
That's
stage fan.
yeah.
They don't have inlet guide vanes then on this, do they?
No, not in front of that one. No.
Okay. Yeah, so it was actually the first stage compressor. Thank you for making that point. It's gone. It's completely sheared off about maybe a couple inches from its base.
Yeah,
And,
they're big blades too.
Yeah. Wow. So, yeah, the passengers. The thing I want to ask about this, and some people have been discussing this. They could have, instead of going all the way back to Perth, which was I think about 90 minutes away from their position, they could have landed at a base. I believe it's an Air Force base or air base or something like that. I'm trying to find the name of it here.
Pierce?
Oh no, it's Learmont actually.
Okay.
25 minutes away, and some people were kind of criticizing them because this is one of those situations where they should have landed as soon as conditions permit. And I think that the Accident Investigation Authority for Australia is actually kind of looking into this. Why the pilot made the decision to go all the way back to Perth, 90 minutes instead of the 25-minute divert to Learmont. So, do you have any thoughts on that, Captain Nick?
I'm not familiar with Learmont as runway length, etc. That would
Yes.
be my only consideration. Now, Airbus have introduced some quite conservative stopping distance figures, and we're in the process of introducing slightly more realistic ones via the AFB. But whilst we're using paper calculations, they are pretty conservative. On the 330, you can't dump fuel, so if he was pretty heavy, then he may have been concerned about his landing distance. That might have
Say
been
330 can't dump fuel.
Well, ours can't. I don't know if other people's can, but ours certainly can't now.
That's kind of surprising. Okay.
I did look up the airport, and it's kind of an obscure place further up north of Perth, kind of where the coastline kind of goes from north, and it starts heading more to the east. That kind of it's not really a corner, but that part of the continent. And I believe the runway is 3,047 meters, which is just shy of 10,000 feet.
That should be okay. It's probably not going to be very high. Nowhere in Australia is very high. Yeah, he should have been probably okay with that, I would have thought.
Yeah. Now, the thing that they didn't have going for them there is that, of course, they don't have any kind of company facilities there to kind of handle the passengers. And I also looked to see if there were hotels or motels or some place for those passengers to sleep. And there are a couple very basic, like tent kind of camping facilities and very small hotels. And I would imagine that, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that the number of hotel rooms was probably, 50 or less.
Well, I think you're alluding to the fact that maybe the dispatcher, operations control center, whatever they call that for that company, may have played a factor in that decision-making process.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised because, they're looking at the same information you're looking at, and that is, there's no hotel space. It's, there's no facilities there to handle the airplane. It's an ETOPS aircraft. It's, 90 minutes for an ETOPS aircraft is really not that long. You have one good operating engine.
Yeah, but then
What's the
again,
chance-
we have our company has had situations out there in the middle of the Pacific where they've gone to Midway Island, which has a lot fewer niceties and facilities than this Learmont airport that they could have gone to. I don't know. Again, it's easy to second guess their decision, but
Monday morning quarterback.
Yep, and it's not even Monday.
And apparently there are versions of the A330 that can dump fuel.
Okay. Interesting. So I just thought I'd mention that. It was kind of what do you think about the? I guess we should really talk about this. The PA from the captain basically kind of interjecting his faith and religious viewpoint and asking people to pray. What do you think about that? It seems to me that most of the reaction to that was like, "How dare he do that?"
Well, I think and no one's saying don't have faith, don't be religious, but when you're the captain of that aircraft that's having a very obvious problem, obvious to the passengers on board, if it's a situation where you can and should be reassuring, you should be, and also professional for the sake of safety, so that the cabin crew can do their job. Because if you're saying things that are making passengers potentially more in a panic than they already were, then that may just make things more chaotic. So.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, Captain Nick would probably be, and Captain Jeff probably are more in tune to making those types of decisions and thinking about that. But as a first officer, I'm obviously asked on a regular basis that if something goes wrong, to make the PA in lieu of the captain. And if you kind of incite fear, you're going to get fear.
And not that
there's
saying religious things is fearful in general,
Well,
but if you think
prayer,
about that
but, I mean,
situation,
take a step back to what he
Yeah.
said originally.
Mhm.
I forget exactly what the verbiage on it, but it's basically, we may or may not make it.
Right.
Okay. Well, time out. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain speaking. We've obviously have a problem with the aircraft. We're addressing the issue. We're going to get us safely back to Perth or wherever we're going. Don't say,
Done.
okay, well, we hope we're going to make it.
We have at least a 50-50 chance of making it.
Exactly. I mean, that's not something you're going to say.
No.
I mean, maybe a
Dennis,
6
exactly
month
right.
captain may say that.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yes, Nick?
Yeah, Dan is exactly right. By all means, if you have faith, you can certainly. I don't see anything wrong with introducing it, but in a very positive way. If you insist on inducing faith into a PA, which I don't personally think is right, then you should say something like, God is with us and we will be safely landing this aircraft with his guidance very shortly, if that's what you want to say. But you don't say, we hope anything. You never hope something.
Yeah.
You always assure people that it will happen. You trust something. You can trust in us that we will get the aircraft, or do our best to get the aircraft back on the ground as quickly as possible, or as safely as possible, whatever you want to say. But you don't start asking people to start relying on outside influences in order to ensure their safety. It's kind of don't work. Are we all looking at data?
We had to
Yeah,
put the
we
mute
had
on
to
because
mute
he's
David.
digging into the ice chest and it makes a huge amount of noise.
We did hear everything that you said, though, and I was trying to agree with you there. And sorry.
We were trying to agree with you. We just can't.
Oh, no,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Janet does understand this is an audio show, yeah?
Yes, he does. I think.
Good. Okay.
Well, that's why Jeff was nice enough to mute it. Why was able to get some ice to pour myself another adult beverage, liquid attitude adjustment from earlier.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right. Enough of that. Quickly, we talked about the incident with the Challenger 604 corporate jet that suffered a severe in-flight upset after passing under the wake of an Airbus A380 out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And EASA just published a safety information bulletin on wake vortex. And we'll put a link to this in the show notes if you want to read it as well. But basically, they talk about describing how wake works and how fast it settles and how fast it disperses, etc. And it also talks about things that we as pilots can do to help recover from these inadvertent wake vortices upsets.
Absolutely. And I might point out that Pip did a very good segment on this particular incident in his last show. So anyone is interested in finding out some more and detailed information about that, please listen to Pip's last broadcast plane safety podcast.
Pip, who's that?
Yeah,
Not sure. I'm not familiar with that guy.
The middle of the apple of our eye.
Yes, he is. Pip, we love you, man. And great show, by the way. So many of you sent feedback regarding this. Amongst you, Jim Howard and Nick Wilson. Jim says, an elderly lady in China seems to, he starts off by saying, does throwing coins into a jet engine bring good luck? Well, an elderly lady in China seems to think so. And you know what? Before we move on to the actual piece here, I'm going to play some exclusive audio. We just happen to have, we have some sources, connections there that actually recorded this occurring. So let's take a listen. So, you're listening to the APG, and we have our sources. And apparently, this Chinese lady was pretty excited, yelling and hooting and hollering and throwing the coins in the engine. Actually, I believe that the engine wasn't running. To be honest with you, I just kind of made that whole thing up, but I had fun with it.
Yeah, nice one.
Thank you. So, 9 coins were found in the engine. I guess this lady was, they were boarding passengers. They were using one of the air stairs, I believe, because I can't imagine how you would have access to throw coins into an engine unless you were outside and had a.
She's a good shot.
Oh, yeah.
Just,
Or,
like
or a professional baseball player with,
Right.
an elderly lady.
No, 80. I think she's like 80 years old or something like that. Anyway, as she was passing by the engine on the air stairs, she threw a handful of coins, 9 of them to be exact. 9 coins were found in the, well, we're hoping it was only 9. 9 coins were found in the engine, with the captain warning that could have caused engine failure. And let's see, ground staff said the woman, who appeared to be about 80 and had limited mobility, was accompanied by her husband, daughter, and son-in-law. So anyway, the captain was quoted as saying the metal, if sucked up, I already said that. Flight was later given a green light and took off at 5:52, more than 5 hours late. So, it looks like they were able to find all the metallic objects before starting the engine. And
what else are you going to do with all the American change in China?
Yeah, I know. Doesn't it look like there's a picture of?
Looks like dimes and pennies.
Like dimes, but I don't know that it
Yeah,
actually
I don't think they are, but it does
Yeah.
look like our currency, actually.
Well, they do have weird superstitions over there. I mean, think of this: shark fin soup.
Pardon me?
Shark fin soup.
Shark fin soup. Okay.
It heals all this stuff and all these different things they want to kill in the world to have their superstitions. So this kind of makes sense. Throwing coins in an engine brings good luck.
Yeah. I should try that then.
We should.
Yeah.
Why
Okay.
not?
I'm just trying to work out who it brings good luck to. Is that their competitors?
Yes. Good one. Good one. All right, quickly. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to mention at the beginning, this was something I was going to talk about. We talk about your feedback that you send us, your support, your financial support, et cetera. I actually, we have a snail mail P.O. box. The APG does. You can find that information in the on the website. I think it's P.O. Box 2191, Roswell, Georgia 30077, I believe. Anyway, that information's on the website, and Oliver's done this before. Oliver is in Switzerland, Lucerne, and he has some family here, I believe, in the States. The package came in from Austin, Texas, and he writes, "Dear Captain Jeff, some Swiss chocolates again for you." He did that before. "And you and your crew, as long as there are some chocolates left. So I still enjoy the show, and it keeps me going further in my career. Thanks for the effort you put into the show every week. Private pilot and sailplane student Oliver Farin from Switzerland." So thank you, Oliver. And right now, hang on.
Ooh.
I'm gonna pull out my backpack. Uh-oh. Where'd they go? I swear I had them earlier.
They're in that melted puddle in the bottom.
Here we go.
Yay.
So, Nick, I'm sorry that you're not able to share these with us, but let's see. This one's called Calais Latte Milk Chocolate. We got some dark. I'm going to keep that one for myself. And some pure. Dana's already eaten the first bar. Anyway, so here's proof that we actually received your chocolates. Oliver, thanks so much.
Thank you. Really, that's awesome.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks very much.
We'll all share. What's
I'll
that?
save you one, Nick.
Yeah, you said that about that.
Oh, you want a picture?
I know I did.
Is that what you're doing? Or? Oh, okay. The live audience here is giving us some kind of nonverbal cues and communications. And I'm not sure. Oh, Did you want him to put that through the goalpost or something? Oh, okay. Okay. Anyway. So thank you very much for that, Oliver. So let's get back to the news. Moving on. How long have we been going here already?
Forever.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
All right. NASA.
Sleeping, you don't.
Yeah, I don't. NASA gives okay for a design of super quiet supersonic experimental airplane. And I believe I have a little bit audio from this. Let's take a listen.
NASA has been working for decades, essentially, on looking at technologies to take the boom out of boom. We'd like to have sonic thump or just sonic sound. And the idea is to design the airplane so that the shock waves that are produced in supersonic flight are arranged in such a way that you don't have a boom. You have just kind of a general gradual pressure rise, which produces a quiet sound. So there are a number of challenges associated with supersonic travel in general. We want the airplanes to be environmentally friendly, so we want them to be quiet around the airport, and we also want them to have low emissions. NASA has worked on a number of technologies which could reduce the noise of sonic boom. Right now we're doing the preliminary design. We call that activity Quest for quiet supersonic technology. So we've tested them in wind tunnels, but now the next phase is to take the technologies and test them in flight. So to do that, we're building an X-plane design and the eventual low boom flight demonstration aircraft that represents the boom of a larger airplane. The idea is to prove the technology, show how robust it is in a variety of atmospheric conditions, but ultimately to prove that the sound that's created is acceptable to people on the ground.
NASA is conducting supersonic research with a lot of different organizations around the country. But primarily our role is, getting the data for supersonic flight. One of the primary things we have to do initially is get the atmospheric data so we understand the effect of the atmosphere, real atmosphere on sonic boom. But then the real data for regulatory change required is just really taking measurements on the ground and then doing surveys of the population to see what the annoyance of those much quieter sonic booms are. It should sound like a thump, so it could be that people don't even notice the sonic boom, and that's what we want to. That's really the data that we're talking about for regulatory change.
So supersonics has kind of been a dream for a long time. Cut your travel time in half. It's a good industry for the U.S. to be getting into. As subsonic commercial airplanes are being built worldwide now. We need some new markets, some new vehicles to maintain our leadership in commercial aviation.
Okay, I'll put a link to this article in the show notes if you want to read more about this. But they said that NASA says that they've cleared a significant milestone on the path to reviving supersonic passenger jet travel. And we heard them talking about that in this video about instead of a sonic boom, it's a sonic bump or thump. So
it says sonic thump.
And at the same time that they're going to be out there kind of gauging the annoyance factor of this, they're also going to be gauging the annoyance factor of the Airline Pilot Guy show as well.
Oh, it's a secondary
like an
measure.
add-on to those bills they pass in Congress.
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. So anyway, and I have a little beef with their little thing, quiet supersonic technology or Quest. Now tell me where it's QUESST, but it's quiet.
They just omitted the I because if you lifted it with QUI, it'd be Keist.
Yeah, I say no. Fail.
Fine.
Yeah. Sorry.
Semantics.
Worked too hard with that one. Anyway.
Well, how do you spell Qantas?
QANTAS.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they can get away with anything nowadays.
But that's actually what, an acronym or an initialization or whatever they call it. I guess it's not really an acronym, but for what does that stand for? Something Queensland and
transport.
And what about the N? Northwestern. We have no idea.
Northern Territory.
I'm sure somebody in the chat room right now is yelling us, typing in all caps.
QA, Queensland and NT, Northern Territories, QANT, Air Service.
Air Service. Oh, very good. Bing. We have
I was going to say Glenn Towler probably knows that one.
Well, you're going to try to say that, but you were not successful.
Well, that's my accent.
Okay.
Towler.
All right. Moving on. Who cares about this sonic boom stuff? Sonic thump. Let's see. Oh, Nick will enjoy this one. We've talked about Airbus is experiencing this kind of problem with iced up pitot tubes? Well, it turns out that a 787 Dreamliner made by Boeing with an E was operated by Jetstar Airways. They experienced an erratic airspeed incident in December of 2015, so almost a couple of years ago. The changes are detailed in a report written by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, ATSB. The incident occurred when the aircraft en route from Melbourne to Singapore was cruising at 40,000 feet, approximately 4 hours into the 8-hour flight. It flew through an area of high iced water content, again, ice crystals, that caused temporary blockage to all 3 of its pitot tubes. Boeing determined an invalid airspeed existed by comparing the results among the pitot tubes with an independently calculated airspeed approximation based on angle of attack and inertial data. Let's see. Although a previous airworthiness directive required crews to avoid ice crystal icing to prevent engine issues, the crew told investigators that the aircraft was too close to the precipitation to maneuver around it once the area appeared on the airborne radar. Due to the ice, the measured airspeed dropped approximately 250 knots to less than 50 knots in less than 5 seconds. This generated several error messages in the cockpit, I'd say so, and caused the flight control mode to revert to secondary mode. The erroneous airspeed stopped after approximately 17 seconds, but pilots were forced to continue flying in the secondary mode, which does not allow for use of the autopilot and multiple other features, including envelope protection and gust suppression. The reversion in this case could only be reset on the ground. Faced with flying without an autopilot for another 4 hours, yeah, the crew decided to dump fuel and land in Darwin, Australia, where they have some very nice topless beaches. As a result of the
How
incident,
do you know that?
I'm sorry, I'm just reading the article. Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't in the article, was it? Okay. As a result of the incident, the ATSB said Boeing made 2 changes to the flight control software. One involves increasing the time required for a no computed data state, which occurred when all 3 pitot tubes provided faulty information. This causes the transition into secondary mode. The other limits the rate at which elevator fuel reduces as airspeed drops, a change meant to help pilots avoid large control wheel inputs in response to perceived changes in airspeed. So anyway, basically they just kind of tweaked the software to keep this from happening again, but it's very, very suspiciously similar to other events, and most of these have been publicly talked about in the Airbus world, but apparently the Airbus is not the only one that's susceptible to this kind of thing. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, it looks a similar sort of thing, Jeff. And I think the big difference here was the pilots on board. I don't know exactly what they did, but they obviously didn't over-control the airplane like the very junior Airbus pilot that was actually hand-flying the Air France aircraft did, which got them into their appalling situation from which they never recovered. I'm glad to see that not every pilot out there is as badly trained, but it sounds to me like the aircraft is just as susceptible and had a very similar result in computer changeovers to that the A330 had. So,
and in fact, you mentioned the pilot's actions. The Australian Transportation was the ATSB stand for, again, Safety Board, praised the crew's response to the problem, noting that the pilots, quote, did not make any large changes to the control inputs, landed and handled the aircraft according to the airspeed unreliable checklist by setting a pitch angle and thrust level that would produce a desired airspeed regardless of the pitot readings. Control performance, 2 words to live by.
Yeah, but having said that, after the Air France incident, if there's a commercial pilot out there who hasn't heard of it and doesn't know what to do, I would be very surprised. He must have had his head under a brick or in the sand or something.
I'm sorry, what are you supposed to do?
Okay.
There will be remedial training later.
All right. And this was sent in by Pilot Pip, and also received this from our Airline Pilots Association, the association representing the pilots of Acme Air and others here in the country. There's and this is kind of a moot point unless if you're watching this as we're recording the show, because I believe tomorrow, the 30th of January,
Or June.
Sorry, January. I don't know why I just keep saying January. Where am I?
Earth, welcome.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. What are we doing at this table with microphones? Yes, the 30th of June, Friday. Thank you very much. See the love I get from my co-host.
You're wearing shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah. Okay.
He's stuck down under all these news stories about Australia.
That's true. It is kind of
Yeah.
chilly down there.
It is. It's
Okay.
winter, I think.
Anyway, there's a survey. If you're listening right now, you need to go there right now and to well, I'm not gonna give you the link because it's a very long URL and it's a lot of French.
Parlez-vous français?
Yeah, but basically it's a ATC communications survey regarding something that they're calling common single language use at several of the airports in France, whether or not we as licensed pilots think it's important to speak a common language so we can all understand what's happening around these airports. And you know how I feel about that. And Pip feels the same way. And they kind of, Pip said, like, they kind of kept this on the lowdown and really didn't publicize this very much, I think, hoping to get the desired result from this survey. And he's saying, try to tell everybody out there. I put a tweet out yesterday hoping that some of us could go over there and complete the survey.
It asked me, I clicked on the link and it asked me a question. It's a security question. And I don't understand the question. It says 2 + 30 equals.
That's math.
32.
Oh, okay.
That's just
all right.
Never mind.
Sad.
It does, however, ask for your license number.
Yeah.
So it does, however, ask for your license number. So if you are going to complete the survey, you need
Yeah,
to
they
have
want to
that
make
handy.
sure that everybody's legitimate.
Yeah,
when
they
they're,
don't want a bunch of.
Yeah. Did somebody turn the heat on in here?
Yeah.
It feels like the heat is on.
You can just Sorry.
Doesn't it?
I feel great
I
now.
feel
I'm
warm
not
air.
holding
You like?
on.
Oh, okay. Why don't we just turn the whole thing off? There we go.
Sorry, that's what I thought we were doing before. That's okay. That's perfect.
All of a sudden, I'm thinking, God, this feels like somebody turned the fireplace on or something. Okay.
My toes are still freezing. So
Somebody get Steph a blanket.
I know.
Okay. All right. That's enough of this. I think it's now time for the best part of the show, which of course is your feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
And let's start with Mississippi Matt. He said, let's see, why am I not seeing? Oh, he said, this is time-sensitive feedback. For those who may be interested, the P-51 Berlin Express will be making a transatlantic flight from Texas to Duxford, England, starting today, June 28th, I guess that was yesterday, through July 4th. They will be recreating the route taken in 1942. Anyone will be able to follow its progress at the link below via a GPS tracking device. And I'll put the link to this in the show notes. And the Berlin Express P-51B Mustang achieved legendary status in an epic World War II dogfight in Paris. We talked about this on the show, I don't know, sometime last year. In 1944, piloted by an American Bill Overstreet, who flew the aircraft under the Eiffel Tower in hot pursuit of a German fighter. Overstreet eventually downed the German Messerschmitt Bf-109G and eluded heavy enemy fire while escaping the battle with his P-51B Mustang Berlin Express intact. So apparently they're recreating this whole thing. I don't think they're going to actually recreate the part where they actually fly, or he flew under the Eiffel Tower, although I would really like
I'd love to see that. That would be cool.
Looks like it starts in Texas and ends in at the Duxford Airfield on July 4th, where Dan Friedkin will then pilot it in the Flying Legends Air Show on the right wing alongside his longtime Horseman flight teammates Stephen Hinton and Ed Shipley on July 8th and 9th. So there you go, Mississippi Matt. We got that out there for those who want to follow the progress of this flight, its journey across the world.
Last I checked, it was in. Oh my God! I looked at it this morning. Don't get old. It's just in New York. It was in New York State.
Dane, I'm not sure the age in your case is really the problem. Just kidding. No, he looks hurt. I'm just kidding around.
No, I'm trying to figure out why it says, "What is your mother language?"
Are you doing the survey right now?
Question
Dana,
it says,
we're-
what is your mother language?
Dana, we're doing the show right now. You're not supposed to be doing the survey.
No, I'm
Okay. I'd say English.
What if I put MF? Or
Okay. Let's see. Moving on. Hello. My name is Brigham Anderson. I'm taking an aviation class in college and want to become an airline pilot one day. What, if anything, would you have done in college differently? What has your career path been like? I really can't say everything that I wish I'd done differently because I don't want to incriminate myself. But I'd say that the one thing that just came off the top of my head was maybe, many of you know that I'm an amateur musician, and I was actually offered some music scholarships to go to some really good music schools. I turned them down because I thought that to become a pilot, you had to take something that was technically oriented, like an engineering kind of a degree or whatever, science, math, whatever. And now that I look back, it really wouldn't have made any difference at all as long as I had a degree, even if it was in, as we always like to say, basket weaving. I don't really think there's a degree in basket weaving, but anyway, I think that that might be something that I might do differently. Just go back and get a degree in music, and had a much different experience in college.
Yeah, and there's a lot of professions where that holds true as well. A lot of professions out there will either have secondary training, unless you're going into something that's business or where you're really going to use whatever it is that you're doing in college to come out and directly apply that to your career. There's a lot of careers out there that don't have that requirement. They just want to see that you've obtained a higher education degree. So you should do it in something that you enjoy and are passionate about. And if you need additional training for whatever the job is after the fact, that will probably be there when you're done, regardless.
Nick, do you have any
basket weaving?
Basket weaving, yeah. I know
Yeah,
that's
I
what.
can basket weave with the best of them. I had no university background whatsoever. The
there you
only
go.
I'm capable of doing is flying an airplane. So if I hadn't been able to do that, God knows what I would have ended up doing. So I didn't have any second string to my bow. I just went for it, and luckily I, got the job I wanted. So.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that those of us who do this job as a career know that having a college degree, really the only requirement for it is the company that you're applying to, and to try to differentiate yourself with somebody else. They just kind of use it as a differentiator or discriminator. But a college degree certainly is not a necessity for operating airplanes and the kind of job that we do for a living.
Yeah, but in today's day and age, without a college degree, I've got a buddy of mine that's at the regional level, and he has been unsuccessful in getting on with a major because of the fact he doesn't have the college degree.
So, I mean, the actual job does not require it. No, but getting hired by a company does.
Sure,
it's like the old box checking, I guess.
It is, and I guess it's they're looking at your commitment, a level commitment to be able to get through a program,
right?
Because let's face it, when we go through a training program, it's no less than a fire hose effect. You have to learn a lot in a matter of a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So they want to see that you're able to, in 4 years, go through a college program, succeed, and be able to graduate. I can answer that as far as my college experience. I do have a true regret. And that was that I didn't go full forward with the flying portion of my college degree. I went to school for aviation, and I switched to management, aviation management, because I didn't think I had what it took to become a pilot. And I didn't have the money to put myself all the way through school. I worked 4 jobs. And in order to get through school, I actually had to change to management because I couldn't afford the flying portion of it. So, in hindsight, if 2020, I would have been a little smarter with the loans and taken a little more money out in order to finish my flying and get through it, because, I'm about 8 years behind most of my contemporaries. But the important thing was for me to get the 4-year degree. I mean, that was the most important thing. And I'm very thankful that I was able to do that And I made a smart choice at the time, and that was that I couldn't afford the flying. So it was either drop out and try to save some money and continue with the college degree down the road. And who knows if I ever would have come back.
Right.
And instead, I went ahead, took the aviation management degree, which only required my private pilot at the time, got that done, and graduated with a 4-year college degree, which later on down the road enabled me to, get on with Acme.
And I think that's a great story of being persistent of, your dreams and your goals and what you
Sure.
want to do. There's different ways to get to the same endpoint, and not everyone's going to take the same path. And for some people, that might be because of financial constraints. For some people, it might be because of outside interests. But, if you have an endpoint in mind, you can continue to work towards that no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, it takes dedication, and it's important to make good decisions, but you can't make all the right decisions. I mean, at 20 years old, you're only so mature. You can only see so far down the line. Ever since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, I've always known that my desire and my dream was always to be a pilot for an airline. That's what I've always wanted to do. And the military option wasn't there for me because, well, when I was trying to get into the military back in the, early 90s, the administration was cutting back and there were no flying slots. They're trying to get rid of military pilots like it's nobody's business. And honestly, I mean, I was in a college fraternity that we're all aviators, aviation fraternity, and only 4 or 5 of us through a course of 6 or 7 years ever got a military appointment, as a pilot. So it just shows you it was very, very competitive, very difficult. And I made some good choices. I made some bad choices, but you want to know what? At the end of the day, I mean, you live for tomorrow because you learned from yesterday. You learn from your mistakes. And when you're going through college, I don't care who you are, you're going to make mistakes. And you're not always going to make the right decision. And we all have regrets in life. But ultimately, as long as you stay the course, work towards your goals, you get there.
Yep.
And I'm an example of that.
Excellent. All right. Well, with that, thank you for that question, by the way, Brigham, and good luck with your college experience. And I hope that helped. And now let's do the very, very popular Plain Tales segment of the show. Take it away, old pilot.
The old pilot's playing tales, turning oceans into ponds. Every day, around 2,500 aircraft make the journey across the Atlantic Ocean from the Americas to Europe or back again. In 2015, 44 million transatlantic passenger seats were offered to let people safely complete a flight that was, only 90 years ago, considered impossible. They watch the latest movies or beaver away at their laptops, perhaps unaware that beneath them, under the waves, lie the airmen that tried and failed before them. When we think of the first transatlantic flight, a name that often springs to mind is that of Charles Lindbergh, but as we will discover, he was far from the first. The idea of linking the two land masses of America and Europe by air first came with the advent of the balloon. In 1859, John Wise, perhaps unwisely, built an enormous balloon named Atlantic. On his crossing attempt, the flight lasted less than a day when he crash-landed in Henderson, New York. It was after the First World War when advances in flight made the possibility of a successful crossing realistic. In 1913, the Daily Mail newspaper offered a prize of £10,000 sterling, which is well over $1 million in today's money, to the aviator who shall first cross the Atlantic in an aeroplane in flight from any point in the United States of America, Canada, or Newfoundland, and any point in Great Britain or Ireland in 72 continuous hours. It was the Curtiss Aircraft and Motor Company who first achieved a crossing of sorts, but this was not a serious attempt to win the Daily Mail prize, as it was a long way from adhering to the rules of the competition. Glenn Curtiss had combined his skills with those of the English naval officer John Port. The 1914 flying boat America that they produced was further modified by Port into the Felixstowe flying boat, which had more powerful engines, a longer range, a better hull, and improved handling. He shared his improvements with Curtiss, who built the aircraft under license and then sold them to the US government. In May 1919, the US Navy started a transatlantic expedition using these aircraft as a demonstration of its capabilities. Initially, 3 aircraft, NC-1, NC-3, and NC-4, set off from Naval Air Station Rockaway in Queens. NC-2 had already been cannibalized for spares before they even left New York, on their journey to Trepassey, Newfoundland. There they met their seaplane tender, the USS Aroostook, which prepared them for their transatlantic flight, before setting sail for England to meet them on the completion of their journey. Across the Atlantic, at about 50-mile intervals, stretching all the way to the Azores, were 22 naval ships, mainly destroyers, which provided navigation assistance by shining searchlights into the sky and firing bright star shells. The 3 aircraft departed, and after a flight of over 15 hours, NC-4 arrived amongst the islands of the Azores. On the way, both NC-1 and 3 were forced to land on the water because of poor visibility and mechanical problems. NC-1 was damaged when it landed and eventually it sank. NC-3 could not get airborne again and taxied 200 miles across the open ocean to join NC-4 at the midway point. A few days later, NC-4 started the leg to Lisbon, but turned back with mechanical problems. After a long wait for spares, it tried again, and after overflying another chain of warships laid out along its route, it successfully landed in Lisbon Harbor. On the 31st of May, the NC-4 and its crew, Reed, Hinton, Stone, Bress, Rhodes, and Rod, arrived in London, having taken 23 days to get from Newfoundland to London. E.H. Howard should have been amongst them, but he was replaced, having lost his hand to a running propeller. This was the first aircraft of any kind to cross the Atlantic, and since it started its journey in Massachusetts, it also became the first to fly from the mainland of the United States to mainland Europe. This enormous undertaking, which involved 4 aircraft and a total of 53 US warships, was, however, soon to be eclipsed by 2 men in an old World War I bomber. To call the Vickers Vimy an old bomber is a little unfair, as it was produced quite late in the war and never actually saw combat. What's more, for its time, it was a very capable machine. An RFC pilot during the war, Alcock was a prisoner when the engines of his Handley Page bomber failed, and during his time of incarceration, he resolved to attempt to win the Daily Mail prize. Vickers were considering entering a Vimy into the competition, and when Alcock approached them as a pilot, they took him on. Soon after, Brown, another downed RFC pilot who had studied long-range navigation, joined the team. They set to modifying an aircraft, replacing the bomb racks with extra fuel tanks, before breaking it down to be shipped to St. John's, Newfoundland. Other teams had tried and failed, including Sopwith with their aircraft, the Sopwith Atlantic, which crashed during the crossing when their engine overheated. When Alcock and Brown arrived, they discovered that they weren't the only team at St. John's. Admiral Mark Kerr was there with Handley Page, who were in the final stages of testing their machine. Kerr was determined not to take off until the aircraft was in perfect condition, so the Vickers boys quickly assembled their twin-engine biplane, and at 1:45 p.m. on the 14th of June 1919, whilst Handley Page were conducting yet another test, they took off. With their modified Rolls-Royce Eagle 360 horsepower engines straining under the weight, they struggled to get airborne from the rough field, barely missing the treetops. Setting course, they left the land behind them, and soon problems began to beset their flight. Their wind-powered generator failed, depriving them of their radio, their intercom, and the heating for their primitive open cockpit. Shortly afterwards, an exhaust pipe burst, creating a dreadfully loud bellowing noise, which made conversation all but impossible. By 5 p.m., they had entered thick fog, which gave them two major problems. Without gyroscopic instruments, they had no way of telling which way was up, and it was impossible for Brown to use his sextant for navigation. Twice, Alcock entered spiral descents, which nearly ended up in the drink, and he struggled to regain control, fighting the aircraft's nose-heavy trim. It was becoming increasingly hard to keep the nose up, as the fuel was consumed since the trimmer had failed sometime previously, and Alcock had to continually pull against the Vimmy's tendency to dive into the water. Just after midnight, Brown got a glimpse of some stars and was able to confirm that they were on course. The night was long and cold for them, particularly as their electrically heated suits had failed, and all they had was their coffee, spiked with whiskey, for comfort. Early in the morning, they flew into a snowstorm, and soon they were drenched and freezing, whilst their instruments iced up. Eventually, the ice covered the air intake of one of the engines. Alcock decided to shut the engine down before the misfiring could destroy it. Descending into warmer air, the duo hoped the ice would melt before they hit the water. At around 500 feet, they broke into clear air and were able to restart the engine. Not long after sunrise, the Irish coast came into view, and with their hearts full of cheer, they circled, looking for a good landing place. The lovely, flat, green field that they chose turned out to be an Irish bog near Clifton in County Galway, and although the wheels dug in, standing their faithful Vimy on its nose, they were both unharmed. After a flight of 15 hours and 57 minutes, they had become heroes, and in addition to winning the Daily Mail prize, the crew received 2,000 guineas from the Ardath Tobacco Company and £1,000 from Lawrence Phillips for being the first British subjects to fly across the Atlantic. A few days later, they were both knighted by King George V. As well as flying their aircraft across the ocean, they also carried a small amount of mail. One of the letters was written by Alcock himself to his sister Elsie. It read, "My dear Elsie, just a hurried line before I start. This letter will travel with me in the official mail bag, the first mail to be carried over the Atlantic. Love to all, your loving brother, Jack." After the completion of the flight, Vickers rebuilt the Vimy, which is now located in the Science Museum in London. Various original components, however, are found elsewhere. One of the propellers was given to Brown, who hung it in his office for years before it was given to the RAF College Cranwell. From there it went to the RAF Careers Office in Holborn, but now apparently it is used as a ceiling fan in Luigi Malone's restaurant in Cork, Ireland. The other was on display in the Transatlantic Terminal 3 at Heathrow, but is now part of a mural in the Brooklands Aircraft Museum. A mere month after Alcock and Brown crawled from their freezing cockpit buried in an Irish bog, the Pullum Pig was also about to enter the history books. Better known as the R-34, the Pig was an airship based at RAF Pullum, which seemed to attract more than her fair share of nicknames, being called by her crew Tiny. She was based on a German Zeppelin L-33, which was captured nearly intact after being brought down on British soil during the First World War. She made her first flight in March 1919 and soon after completed an endurance flight of 56 hours, so it was decided to attempt the first transatlantic return flight under the command of Major George Scott. When he took charge of his new rigid airship at East Fortune in Renfrewshire, Scott had been ordered to prepare for a voyage to the United States of America, and he might have beaten Alcock and Brown to the distinction of making the first non-stop flight, but his craft was damaged during trials which delayed its departure. It was in the early hours of the 2nd of July 1919 when Scott and his crew departed. On board the cramped accommodation was a small crew which included Brigadier General Edward Maitland and Zachary Lansdowne as representatives of the US Navy. William Ballantyne, one of the crew members scheduled to stay behind to save weight, stowed away with the crew's mascot, a small tabby cat called Whoopsie. They emerged late on the first day, too late to be dropped off. Never having been designed as a passenger carrier, hammocks were slung across the keel walkway, and hot food was prepared using a plate welded to an engine exhaust pipe. The R-34 arrived at Mineola on Long Island after 108 hours of flight, and with their fuel almost exhausted. As the greeting party had no experience of handling a large airship, Major Pritchard jumped by parachute to instruct them, thereby becoming the first person to ever reach American soil from Europe by air. After 8 days, an uneventful return flight was made, which took only 75 hours, but gave the Pullum Pig the honor of being the first aircraft to make a return journey. After a successful career as an airship commander, Scott was aboard the last fateful flight of the R-101, recently covered in A Plain Tale, that ended in tragedy when the craft struck high ground in a storm over France and was destroyed. Before the flight, Scott had asked a friend to keep an eye on his pregnant wife and described the R-101 as an old ragbag that was never going to make it. The Ortig Prize was a reward offered by a New York hotel owner to the first aviator of an allied country to fly non-stop from New York to Paris. The offer was a substantial $25,000, and it gave rise to considerable competition amongst those aircraft designers and pilots who thought it might be possible. The first serious attempt was made by René Fonck, backed by Igor Sikorsky, who built a sleek tri-motor biplane for the attempt. Having been fueled the previous night, when the aircraft was weighed before its attempt, the S-35 was found to be 4,000 pounds, that's nearly 2 metric tons, overweight. Despite this, the crew of 4 attempted to take off from Roosevelt Field in New York. But as the aircraft accelerated, the landing gear broke and the aircraft plunged down a slope at the end of the runway, bursting into flames. The pilots survived, but their radio operator and engineer both died. Other attempts ended up in disaster when American Legion crashed on a test flight, killing both pilots. Charles Nungesser, a First World War ace who flew in the movie The Dawn Patrol, teamed up with Francois Colli and took off from Le Bourget Airport near Paris. In their craft, l'Oiseau Blanc, the White Bird, the Levasseur PL-8 biplane, they were sighted heading past Island, but they never arrived at their destination. Mystery surrounds their disappearance, but a recently discovered US Coast Guard telegram tells that wreckage of a white aircraft was seen some 200 miles off the coast of New York in August 1927. Finally, a latecomer to the competition, Charles Lindbergh, a previously unheard of airmail pilot, in his purpose-built Ryan monoplane, the Spirit of St. Louis, got airborne from a wet and muddy Roosevelt Field, which is now a shopping mall. He cleared the telephone lines at the end of the runway by about 25 feet. With his right whirlwind radial engine beating steadily, he climbed slowly as he started a flight that was to last 33.5 hours. Like Alcock and Brown before him, he faced many challenges. At times, he was forced to skim the waves, only 10 feet above them, and then climb to get over storm clouds 10,000 feet high. He fought icing and flew blind on his instruments for hours, all while striving to stay awake for the long flight. When he finally saw Le Bourget Airport, he didn't recognize it because thousands of car lights surrounded the field as the people of Paris came to see his arrival. On landing, a crowd of nearly 150,000 stormed across the airfield, dragging him from the cockpit and carrying him aloft for nearly an hour. His place in history was assured. However, in a speech to the crowd welcoming him, he modestly said that Alcock and Brown showed me the way.
Another fascinating plane tales by the old pilot. We know him as Captain Nick. Captain Nick, awesome. You still there? Nick.
He's gone.
Oh.
Yeah.
He quit for the night. It's late. It's past his bedtime.
It is very late over there.
He had to go watch sheep.
Okay, well, we're sad that you're not with us. At least he's with us here in the world, of course, but not with us on the show tonight. So, thanks for hanging in there. I know it was very late for you, and you got a lot planned for tomorrow. Like especially that special guest that you're entertaining and hosting tomorrow, Liz Piper. So anyway, another great plane tales as always. Thank you very much for putting in the time and effort that you do on those. Okay, let's quickly move on to, what was it, last week or the week before last, where the southwestern United States.
You sound like me now.
Yeah, maybe I'm just hanging around you for so long already.
I'm rubbing off on you.
The Boston accent.
It's a Boston accent.
That's what she said.
So I think it was some time ago here in our country, there was a huge heat wave in the southwestern United States. And I'm sure you heard about it in the news where the Phoenix International Airport had to shut down, or a lot of the airlines stopped flying because it was just too dang hot.
Sky Harbor.
Yeah, Sky Harbor. Phoenix Sky Harbor.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way they pronounce it there, though. Okay. Let's not have an argument about how you pronounce harbor.
We're here first. The rest of the country has an accent. Just saying.
Okay. So anyway, Mariana wrote in and said, I can't reason why light planes. Oh, I need to. Thank you.
Request from the chat room.
And if you could turn your vibrators off.
I'm sorry, my vibrator was on.
That's what she said.
Let's see. How do I turn that off? There we go. Thank you. Appreciate it, everybody. So, you heard about that heat wave in the southwestern United States last week before last, where it was so hot that airplanes couldn't fly. Mariana wrote in and said, I can't reason why light planes can't take off in thinner air, but larger planes can. Why is this? I would think the opposite. And What about biz jets and very light, say 2 to 4 seat general aviation airplanes? Again, thanks from Mariana. And then she included a link to this story about Phoenix flights canceled because it's too hot for planes. Now, I want to say something. One of the brand new podcasts out there, Max Trescott, one of the hosts of the Airplane Geeks podcast, started his own show called Aviation News Talk Podcast, I believe is the correct name for that. And it's an awesome show. You should subscribe to it and listen to it. I mean, again, so many great podcasts out there. His last show, or at least the last one, he may have put out a new one since I listened to it, but just a couple of days ago, I was listening to it. He talks in great detail about density altitude and how to, the conditions that affect density altitude and why density altitude is such a big deal. And he talked about hot weather flying and again touched upon this whole thing with the airlines canceling flights in Phoenix and why that is. And also he talks about how you as a pilot, his show is most focused on general aviation, you, the general aviation pilot, how to keep cool when things are extremely hot. And he has some great tips there. So again, highly recommend Max Trescott's Aviation News Talk podcast. But do you have anything to say regarding,
Sure. Yeah, we can talk about, I mean, just briefly, and, if I didn't listen to Max's most recent podcast yet, but I'll just cover it briefly. And if you have more questions about it, it sounds like he covers it in great detail. But basically when it's warm outside, part of what we, I won't get into all the calculations to figure things out because I don't know if I know the actual calculation off the top of my head, but basically as the air becomes warmer, it becomes less dense. So the way the airplane is going to behave is as if it's at a higher altitude. So the warmer it gets, the density altitude becomes higher, and they'll actually report that to you on some of the weather broadcasts as you're listening to that. So you may be at our local airport's at 700 feet or so, and on a hot summer day, at the very end of the weather recording, it'll say density altitude 3,295. So what that means is that your aircraft on the ground is going to behave as if it's at an altitude of 3,000 something feet, even though the actual altitude is 700 feet. So you're going to have less performance out of your aircraft. Mariana asked, why is it more difficult for smaller aircraft versus larger aircraft? And some of that comes down to the amount of power you have available. So if you have a smaller aircraft with a smaller engine, less horsepower available, all of a sudden it's a hot day, your airplane's going to behave as if it's at a higher altitude. You're not going to have the same performance to be able to, clear obstacles, climb as quickly. All of that comes into play.
Well, and one thing there is that, comparing a piston airplane with a prop compared to a jet airplane, and the prop is not nearly as efficient as a jet. So
exactly.
Continue. I'm sorry.
Very, very valid point. And then you take into account someplace like Phoenix, which is already at about 2,000 feet above sea level. So it's not sea level. And some of the surrounding areas around Phoenix are even higher. So you take all of that into account, and very quickly you can run out of available performance in the aircraft to, get off the runway safely, all of those types of things, or climb, over a obstacle if you need to.
Back in the 90s when I was flying as a co-pilot on the 727, we ran into this at least one time, twice maybe, that I can remember. And back then it was not necessarily the actual performance of the airplane not being able to operate and take off out of Phoenix Sky Harbor, but it was the fact that the certification of the airplane went to a certain level, the tables, and the top of the table was like 120 degrees. And so when the temperature went above that, we couldn't legally take off, not because the airplane couldn't take off, is that we didn't have the data to validate our takeoff.
I think that was the issue here in a lot of these cases, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily that the aircraft wouldn't do it, but at least for a few of the aircraft, it's that the performance data don't go up that high in temperature, so you can't make those calculations.
Well, and that's exactly correct. And what it is that there's this thing called the FAA, and if the aircraft, the FAA,
Federal Aviation Administration.
Oh, that's right. I've heard of that.
Yes,
Okay.
I forgot about this. It's what's on your license and your medical and
license.
You have? Oh no, they took that away. That's right. I forgot about that. So yeah, Captain Nick is no one can. So in reality, the FAA, if you don't have the performance or the certification, well, you're outside the envelope of the aircraft, and thus you can't operate the aircraft. And it's interesting. Most parameters for aircraft are established through testing, flight testing. So stall characteristics, max altitude, all those things are really through test flight. I'm not sure about temperature because it's very hard to duplicate those temperatures. So I'm willing to bet, and this is just me rolling the dice on the table, but I'm willing to bet that it's all based on calculations versus actual performance. So just like when we get on the aircraft and the FAA says a average passenger, and I forget what the weight is these days, but was it 190?
200, depending on it. The summertime is like 180 or 190, and then the winter is 200.
Yeah, right. If I get on the airplane, I can assure you I don't fit in that 190 category. So they're using averages, and every time we take an aircraft off based on the averages.
Well, it's Dana and I together divided by 2, and you've got
probably the average, right? So exactly,
you do the math. I don't know.
You do the math on that one. Anyways, so they're using averages, and when we're close to max takeoff weight, and people bring on all these bags, the handbags, they roller boards, and you run out of room, roller boards, so check bags end up getting counted as weight. Well, what people forget about is that the 190 pounds includes your carry-on bag, which a rollerboard on average probably weighs 40-ish pounds, maybe 30.
What are people bringing in their luggage?
35. Well, I know mine weighs. I mean, with all Jeff's stuff, I'm sure he's well over his.
Way over.
So
you've got a plane full of, we'll just call them more average Americans who are all podcasters.
Above average.
Above average.
More average. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
So really, my point is that it's all law of averages, and so when they're looking at the numbers when it's really hot outside, it's just a law of averages. And so every time we take to the sky, we're looking at law of averages. Let's say max takeoff weight's 160,000 pounds. Well, it's a law of averages. So we may or may not be 160. We might be at 162 or 63, but it's based on that average. So they say that we're really 158. You know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty certain that those numbers for the temperature are based on calculations. And one thing I wanted to, you talk about density altitude. To put in layman's terms, the density in per cubic foot of air when it's cold out, and you notice when you're outside and it's cold and it's harder to breathe, it's because the air is very dense and the particles are very, very close to each other.
Because they move slower.
They move slower. They're not excited.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have very warm air, the air is less dense because the particles are moving all over the place, very excited, and thus it's not as, it's kind of comparing salt water to fresh water. That's a good analogy. Sure. In fresh water, you sink. In salt water, you float. So it's much more dense water. It's just kind of the difference between.
It's physics.
Physics.
Science.
Yeah. Wait, where's my Albert Einstein here?
So this is kind of a companion to the super hot weather we had in the Southwest. I think the temperatures were up 45, 50 degrees Celsius.
There was like 52. Yeah.
Something like that. So
120.
Sean writes in. He says, hi all, perhaps Captain Nick can comment on this one. Well, perhaps not because he's not here, but we're going to do this anyway. I was perusing the newspapers this morning and found this article in the Evening Standard about the UK's recent heat wave. And we're talking about temperatures above 30 degrees, which is 86 degrees Fahrenheit. That's their heat wave.
Yeah, we moved past that today here in Charlotte.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
93 or something.
Of interest to me was the sentence, fire engines were deployed to cool down runways and taxiways at Gatwick, described by an airport spokesman as standard practice in these hot conditions, which made me wonder, what the heck do you make your tarmac out of in the UK? Ice? Sugar? Now, it turns out that we actually have a microphone on the tarmac at Gatwick, and we have a recording. It got so darn hot there. Oh man, the tarmac is melting. I feel so bad.
It's tragic. It's a sad situation, really.
But you know,
when I read this, I was wondering if in of course Nick not being here, he can't, he would probably know, but I wouldn't be surprised if that tarmac is asphalt, because asphalt and heat tends to form, especially when you put it under heavy weight and heavy load. So if it's hot and the asphalt, where's that we fly into that has that asphalt that we get into those holes?
Yeah, I was just going to talk about that. Washington, D.C. used to be extremely bad about the asphalt taxiways. And if you're just crawling along and it's a hot day and you get to the point where you add power to like start moving and you're not moving and you're adding more power, and it's almost like you get to a point where you cannot add enough power to get out of the hole that your landing gear has basically sunk into in the asphalt. They've reinforced their taxiways since then, but this used to happen quite often about 15 to 20 years ago in Washington. Maybe it still does, but it has not happened to me recently. But LaGuardia was another place.
Well, I just thought of the place I was thinking about. Nassau, Bahamas.
Oh.
You pull into the gate that we're always in, which is always the Mad Dog product, and you can see the indentations.
You just like
asphalt.
slide into the spot and it's like
you can feel the airplane settle in. That's just before you don't even have to set the parking brake. I mean, you settle into that point, and it's you don't move.
Mm-hmm.
So that would just be my guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
but concrete obviously doesn't have the problem,
right?
But asphalt, it under weight will conform to the weight that's on top of it.
What is asphalt?
I don't know. I was going to ask Dan the same question.
Asphalt.
There you go.
Leave the Boston boy alone.
Oh, it's fun.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
Although I will eat on the flip side of the coin. Here in the South, we have problems with the opposite, climate conditions. So if there's snow and ice and cold temperatures, it doesn't even have to be that cold or that
definitely
snowy.
Not cold in this room. I can tell you that right now.
Well, I don't know it depends on who you ask.
Sorry.
Are you still cold?
No, I'm perfect right
now.
now.
Okay.
She's perfect.
And Dana is sweating up a storm. Oh well.
Oh, jeez.
A little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, right? Okay. And many of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about there.
Sure you do.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. How are we doing with time here? I think we have time to talk about ATC privatization.
Yes, we should do that.
Okay. We have two pieces of audio feedback sent in, one from Jim Howard and one from Hillel. And let's start with Jim because he sent his in first.
Jim Howard comment in 3, 2. Hello, Captain Jeff, APG crew, and APG community. This is Jim Howard with a comment on APG 271. But before I get to my comment, let me thank Captain Nick profusely for his series on D-Day. As a former electronic warfare officer, I really appreciated his detailed discussion of the electronic warfare activities conducted during the D-Day landings. It meant a lot to me to hear that. It's good history that I wish more people knew about. Now, on to my comment. There was a discussion in 271 about user fees or how to pay for ATC privatization in the United States. I got the impression that some of the panelists thought that perhaps GA paid nothing for ATC, and that's not correct. General Aviation pays a fuel tax. I believe it's on the order of 20 cents a gallon right now of fuel. And that's a pretty fair system when you think about it, because the Piper J3 burning 3 gallons an hour, flying out of a dirt strip on a guy's farm to fly around and chase his cows around, uses almost nothing from the FAA. In fact, a lot of them use absolutely nothing, but let's just leave that there. On the other hand, a small business jet, a personal use business jet, or a large twin engine piston airplane, they use a lot of fuel, and they pay a lot every hour they fly through the fuel tax. I wanted to address the incremental cost of general aviation to the United States. I suspect it's a lot smaller than what people might think. Consider Austin Bergstrom International Airport, Kilo Alpha Uniform Sierra, that I fly out of. Our partnership pays a lot for hangar rent. It's very high, $550 a month, and it goes up 6% a year. We pay a lot for fuel because in addition to the regular government taxes, we also are charged a flowage fee by the airport itself. And it's not completely unjustified because it's a huge, giant airport and really, really well designed, in this century or in the last century, late last century. So we have a 12,500 foot runway and a 9,600 foot runway, which of course we don't need for our Pipers and Cessnas, but that beautiful British Airways 787 that comes in every afternoon at 5 from London and taxis over to our terminal where everybody can enjoy it and admire it, and then taxis out at 7 and lifts off and all the way to London from Austin. Well, that's worth something just to see that wonderful airplane. I mean, I believe British Airways is considered the premier airline in Europe. I think I'm right about that. A couple of things I've noticed, 2 things to add to the discussion. Delta Airlines strongly opposes ATC privatization for a lot of reasons, mainly cost. It's going to drive up their costs, and they know it. Aviation Week, by the way, printed an article where they said their understanding that the Trump proposal, at some point anyway, exempted piston engine airplanes. But I take not much comfort from that as a piston engine guy, because all it would take is a stroke of the pen and the piston engine would be added to the fees. There's basically is the way I can see it, 3 kinds of privatization of ATC that's done in this planet. North Korea has none, so they actually have one general aviation airplane that will give you an air tour in Pyongyang, but I suspect it's owned by the government. There are fuel taxes like we have here. There's a lot of advantages to a fuel tax. It's basically overhead free. It's all automated. You don't have to hire somebody with a green eye shade to go through a stack of receipts or fill out a bunch of forms or set up a new web server. And we know how good the FAA is at that. You just, if you're not getting enough money from the GA fuel tax, just add a couple of pennies to it. I don't think anybody would complain about that. There's the a la carte system they have in a lot of European countries. I guess they hire somebody with a clipboard or something to sit around at 11 o'clock at night to see if a warrior does a low approach on the ILS, or maybe there's a different price for the VOR approach, or maybe there's a different price if he touches the runway as opposed to not touching it. And that just seems like by the time you add the overhead of having to collect and collate all that information about everything and use of an instrument facility of any kind, you probably eat up 90% of what you gain compared to a fuel tax. Canada has a system that's not too horrible. It's a yearly fee system, and I believe they've actually been able to reduce the fees over the last few years. I wouldn't mind a Canadian-style system if we did away with our fuel tax, and if I thought the U.S. government could pull off a system as efficient as what they have in Canada. And maybe some Canadian pilots would like to comment on that. In any case, I don't have any confidence that the government would do anything other than combine the worst aspects of a government ATC system and a private ATC system. The system we have now is not broken, so why should we fix it? But then again, I was just a navigator, so consider that and evaluating all my opinions. I really enjoy the show, and I hope we go on for many years, even if ATC is privated. This is Jim in Texas. Thank you, folks.
Greetings, APG friends. I'd like to comment on a recent conversation regarding air traffic control privatization, and in particular on the question of taxpayer funding. As it turns out, the vast majority, and by vast majority, I mean well over 80% for the last 2 fiscal years, of air traffic control related funding does not come out of the general public taxpayer dollars. In fact, it comes from a fuel excise tax. In other words, we already have the more you use it, the more you pay system. That money is collected through taxes on fuel. We all fly, we all pay fuel, whether it's directly or through our rentals. We're paying for the fuel. The fuel is taxed. The taxes pay for air traffic control and many other FAA-related activities and expenses, well over 80% for the last 2 fiscal years. So the problem is not necessarily that the system isn't funded or isn't funded properly. The problem is bureaucracy. And replacing a government bureaucracy with one that favors commercial industry, such as the airlines and the airline-related unions, does not necessarily mean that it will be spent smarter than right now. So I don't want to get into too much of the argument over ATC privatization, good or bad, because that's an entirely separate conversation from where the money comes from. So to dispel a not quite the right answer for arguing about how unfair it is that the general public pays for air traffic control, but a tiny percentage of the public directly uses it. Obviously, the argument's made for everyone benefits by air traffic control, even when you simply purchase something online and it is shipped to you by air. That's a great argument. But simply in terms of who pays for it and how it's funded, those that fly fund it for everyone who benefits. Thanks. Keep up the great work as usual. Great seeing everyone as often as possible, and have a great summer.
Yes.
Hey, there we
I
are.
love
There
the
we go.
Surface 3. It's
Yay.
such a great piece of equipment.
It's fantastic. It
All
works
right.
all the time.
Great feedback from both of you, Jim and Hillel. What do you think, Steph?
Yeah, I mean, this is, certainly this is a airline focused show for the most part, and this has become much more of a big topic in the general aviation world. I think there's a lot of fear and concern that if things are privatized, that's kind of take away some of the checks and balances on who controls the fees and the fee structure for private owners and operators of small aircraft. One of the great things here in the U.S. right now, and a reason why a lot of people come to our country from other places to fly and learn how to fly here and train here and build hours here, is because flying is expensive, but in comparison, it is relatively cheap here for a vast number of reasons. Fuel costs are low here. Relatively cheap to rent aircraft here. Cost of instruction is reasonable, but also there's not a whole lot of excess fees in terms of you don't have to pay every time you land at an airport. You don't have to pay to shoot an approach. So associated fees are also very low. And I think the big concern is that if ATC was privatized, then there would be a lot more end user fees for a lot of these services. And both Jim and Hillel brought up great points, especially Hillel's about where ATC is actually funded right now, because I think a lot of people don't realize that. It's funded by the folks who are actually using it. And there's a lot of downstream benefit because, like you mentioned, every time you ship a package, if it's shipped, if it's getting on an airplane and coming to your destination, then you're indirectly using those services, even if you never buy an airplane ticket to fly somewhere. So there's a lot of detail that goes into all of this. There's a lot going on with it. Do you want it to be government bureaucracy or private bureaucracy? It could go good or bad either way there. But the main thing is right now, most people feel like this is something that actually works pretty well within the government, and we don't see a big reason to actually change it. So there's a lot of push from the GA side of things, from people who use general aviation services, push to call your members of Congress, your representatives, your senators, let them know your, thoughts on all of this. And it actually looks like, I think it was the 27th, let's see. It says, while legislation in the U.S. House of Representatives to turn the U.S. air traffic control system over to the airlines was passed by committee June 27th. This is an article from the AOPA. They continue to voice their opposition to that legislation. So part of it's already gone through the U.S. House of Representatives as of 2 days ago. So if you have an opinion on this and you would like to contact your local representative, please do so. It's easy to do.
Do you have an opinion on this?
Yes,
Dana?
I actually do, and it's probably not going to be very popular.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, we want to hear all the,
Well,
all sides.
Dana at airlinepilotguy.com.
Yes. Send me your feedback. I am, how do I put this the way I want to put it? Okay. The real reason for privatization is that the government is very wasteful. And quite frankly, the next gen and all the initiatives, for example, the reclassification of the arrival, SIDS and STARS, that, it was a big expense for the Atlanta airspace. And quite frankly, they don't work. So the driver, I think, of privatization is probably because Donald Trump, and I'm not going to get into political, arena as far as supporting what he does not. But, let's face it, organizations that support themselves tend to be far more organized, efficient and effective. So privatization on that level, I think, would be better towards moving the aviation world towards next gen and being more efficient and bringing in new technologies that would make the airspace system better operated. I mean, let's face it, Nat Canada, whatever they call them. I can't remember what they call themselves. It's never up in their airspace, but they are very effective and very efficient at what they do. I mean, Europe's a whole different ball game because everybody wants to get their hands in the kitty. Jim talks about it. Really it is, and Hillel also talks about it. It's a self-sustaining system as far as the system today. You've got the taxes that are paid by whoever buys fuel, passengers that are getting on airplanes. It's a self-sustaining system. The problem is that the allocation of the funds from the time that you buy the product until the time that you buy the gas and to where it goes, who knows? The efficiency of the government and the red tape that's involved is just ludicrous. It has taken them so long to move nowhere. I mean, at a snail's pace. So, and I'm not criticizing the government. I mean, listen, I've had plenty of FAA jump seaters that come on and they're here to help. But quite honestly, I've only had one FAA jump seater that wasn't really kind of cool. So I'm not criticizing the FAA and the jobs that they do because they really do a good job. The problem is that you've got two entities in the FAA. You've got the enforcement, and then you get the people that are trying to, run the organization, and they're butting heads because their function is to promote safety and operate the system. It's kind of hard to do both. So I don't necessarily support privatization because I absolutely agree with, it's going to hurt GA. But in reality, honestly, I think it would actually help GA. This country is founded on, the freedoms in democracy. And, there might be some profiteers out there, but honestly, we're already paying for it. It's just a matter of taking the resources that we're putting out there and using them to make the system better. And I don't think the government's doing it. They're not getting there.
I hear what you're saying with all that, and it's funny because it's a little Jeff, okay.
I'm reading the chat.
Oh, okay, you're reading the chat. I thought he was starting to doze
I'm
off
okay.
on us there. It's a little counterintuitive to how we think of the American spirit and American ingenuity. We want private companies, we want less government in general, and more. We just want the government to stay out of our affairs. So it's a little strange to hear so many people going, well, this is one government run, or at least government supported, government funded program that we actually like. What I wanted to add to all of that, though, was my biggest concern with all of that is that if you drive up the cost for people to get their initial training, their initial ratings, their private pilot certificate, their commercial certificates, instrument ratings, multi-engine, in the private sector before they're moving up through the ranks to get into airline jobs. We're already getting to the point where you have, a shortage of pilots coming through the ranks.
But
if
you're
you make
not
that,
driving up the cost.
I fear that you will be, though. I think that's the big fear with
privatization. I agree that there is the fear of that possibly happening. And I read the comment that the US ATC, Glenn said, and the US AT system isn't broken. No, it isn't broken. I mean, for the most part, it's very effective until you try to come to Charlotte. You try to come to Charlotte on a clear day like today. Now, fortunately, with our delay, we didn't get that much of a delay. But every time you taxi out in Atlanta, it's how long is my delay to Charlotte? Charlotte is the worst run airport in the entire country.
Well, I have to say that mainly the reason for that is because you have two very large hub-based airports within close geographic vicinity, and so the flow of traffic, trying to flow or get somebody to get into the flow of traffic between these two big bases or hubs is difficult. It's hard to find a spot.
And so what Dana was saying is, potentially on the private side, you can
There are 5 airports in the metro northeast area that have 5 hubs. I disagree with you because...
But you're not flying from Newark to Kennedy or from,
Agreed. However, anytime you taxi out anywhere, you always hear all these aircraft anywhere are getting delays into Charlotte. It's because they do not use their runways in their airspace effectively.
And I don't know, and I agree, they don't do things very efficiently here, both in the air and on the ground as well. But I'm not so sure it has anything to do with whether it's a private ATC system or a government-run ATC
Is it
system.
just a local?
I think it's just
Charlotte is terrible at
it's Charlotte.
managing traffic.
It's Charlotte. I mean, it's terrible. I mean,
yeah.
I was making the comment this morning. I mean, we're taxiing out of Miami. Miami has the exact same runway capability. They have 8 right, 8 left, runway 9, and runway 12. Turn the runways around. You can do the math.
It's similar, yeah.
Like very similar. You got Lauderdale just up the road. You got Palm Beach just up the road. Lauderdale is a pretty big operation. Spirit, other airlines that are in there that are hubs. JetBlue, Acme. A lot of operations out in and out of there. So, and that's only 38, 39 miles up the road. But yet, Miami with the same capacity, I can't remember the last time I ever had a delay into a major hub for cargo and American with the same runway capacity. But every time you come to Charlotte, so and this is not an argument for or against privatization. This is just pointing out that there are opportunities to improve, and privatization again could really benefit the airlines, and also I really believe it would benefit GA because we're already paying. The argument is that the system's not broken. We're not paying for it. It's not transparent because you don't think you're paying for it, but in fact, we are paying for it. We really are. It's just, and my problem isn't whether we're paying for it or not. It's the appropriation of the money and the efficiency. I mean, you look at the military; they're paying $20 for a roll of toilet paper, right? Or
well, no one's saying that
for,
government isn't efficient or is efficient. I guess the concern is that there's just potential for less oversight, less regulation. Things can get carried away or out of hand for the folks who don't have the ability, the same ability to lobby for what they need in order to use the airspace in the same way that they were previously.
Well, and one argument would be, remember in the deregulation of the airline industry, one could argue that in fact it could hurt. And I agree with that. I mean, it could hurt the industry, but initially deregulation actually really helped the industry. And, it's now been consolidated, but what you're going to do is you can put competitive bids out there. People, they're going to be held to the fire. I mean, I forget what the number is. I think it's $20 or $30 million to redesign the airspace system into Atlanta, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And,
I think there's a lot of ways you could argue this for either for or against privatization. And I certainly do see some of the, like I said, I'm very much on the side of less, not to get into politics here, sorry, but less government, more private business, more private competition. I think that's always a good thing. I just have concerns about how that changes things for the general aviation side in this particular instance.
So let me ask you a question. Is healthcare better under Medicare or under guided insurance like United Healthcare?
I can go into so much on that, and I am not going to, because Jeff will just pull the plug on the show right then and there.
Well, we're already going pretty long here, so I'm just gonna have to say, well, we agree to disagree. There are a lot of good points made, both plus and against, for and against privatization. I think a lot of these issues aren't necessarily privatization issues. They're more effective management of airspace. I think also, my personal opinion, it seems that a lot of what we're seeing in this next gen and stuff like that are just kind of making these quote unquote improvements because we have the technology to do so. But it's not always, in my opinion, the right thing to do something just because you have the technology to do it. If it's working okay without the technology or the advanced technology, then why change it? I don't know. I'm just thinking back to when we used to fly out of Atlanta with one departure. It was the Atlanta departure, and we had all these different gates.
South one,
and South one, North one, West 2, and you take off, they give you vectors to these fixes, and then you're on your way. And that worked just fantastic. Then they came up, I don't know how many, is it over 100 different departure procedures and transitions that we have now? I bet if you added up the transitions as well, it'd probably be over 100. And then the same thing with all these arrivals, the individual arrivals, and they're thinking, well, if we can just get everybody to use these arrivals, maybe we wouldn't need any air traffic controllers anymore, and everything would just run itself. Well, guess what? It's not going to happen, because you have to have flexibility when you're dealing with traffic coming into these major hubs, especially, if Atlanta was in a place where you never had thunderstorms or bad weather, well, sure, you could get a system like that to run, I guess, but you have to have the flexibility to be able to give radar vectors and allow people to get around thunderstorms and everything else. And it just completely throws a wrench into all these, these fuel efficient RNAV procedures that we're using at these airports. And all it's done, in my opinion, has basically made Dana and I and every single airline pilot out there we're controllers and pilots. And guess what? If we screw something up, it's our fault. It's an onerous thing, I believe, and I don't like it. And I don't believe that we're increasing or enhancing safety with it. And
certainly today, coming into Charlotte, we almost had TCAS RA, because we're coming down. They gave us the Senvia down to, I think it's 6,000 feet on the, I forget which arrival it was.
The Jones.
The Jones arrival. And next thing you know, we get a resolution advisory. Oh no, TCAT, no TA, and there's an aircraft climbing right below us, and it's coming up less than 1,500 feet below us at a rapid rate. And guess who never said one word to us? The air traffic controller.
Yeah, because it's their departure, and the same thing happened to us. The traffic alert, because
traffic alert.
Everybody's just climbing at the speed of heat, and we're coming in at 6,000 feet. The TCAS system isn't smart enough to know that they only have clearance to 5,000, and we have, we're cleared to 6, whatever. So
it's just kind
of.
But
I think really they think I really think the bottom line in all this is that they're thinking that if we can somehow get these procedures in there and less reliance and flexibility and what's the word I'm looking for? Participation by air traffic controllers, we're going to get to the point someday where we're not going to need air traffic controllers. And then eventually we're not going to need pilots, and the whole thing is going to be on its own and nobody's going to touch a thing. Well, I'm sorry.
So who cares if it costs the GI pilots more, because we won't need you either.
And the GI pilots are such a small percentage of everything that, unfortunately for GA, it's like, well, sorry, but
I
this is
do
the
have
way
to
it
say,
goes.
Micah said, stop this conversation, please.
Yeah.
I will say one thing. I am still a GA pilot.
I know.
So
I know you are.
So anyway, you can see this is a very tough
Yeah.
conversation we're having because there's so many good points made on various sides and everything else. But anyway, we need to move on because this show is very long in the tooth. And I just wanted to quickly, again, thank you, Jim and Hillel. Thank you for bringing that whole subject up. I'm sure this is not the last we're going to hear of it or talk about it on the show. But it's something we do need to talk about, and hopefully we can figure it out. Quickly, we had that Washington, D.C. meetup, and two of the folks there, Tony and his son Colin, were there, and they are expert photographers, and they took some photos of us coming in for landing right before the meetup that evening. But the next day, they got up really early. We had a very early departure out of DCA. Took some amazing photographs. I've already tweeted several of them, but I'm going to put these in the show notes. I just wanted to thank Tony and Colin for the just beautiful. I mean, looking at this, some people would say that the Mad Dog is not necessarily the prettiest airplane in the world, but these photos, some of them make this airplane look beautiful, which just I thought was impossible. But a very nice job. Thank you very much, Tony and Colin. And then also just quickly, Tanya, one of our newest APG community members, got to meet her up at the New York City meetup. She writes to the APG crew, so great to meet Captain Jeff, Captain Nick, Captain Jeff number 2, Hillel, Mailman Dave, Radio Roger, and the rest of the fellow APG syndrome sufferers at the New York City meetup. It was a little crazy hearing about Captain Dana's experience of nearly missing the steam pipe explosion, because I had a very similar experience 10 years ago in New York City. I left the office just 10 minutes before a huge steam pipe blast next to the building. My desk was right next to the window on the side where it happened. It was so violent, nearly all the windows were shattered and concrete chunks came through the windows on the 8th floor where I worked. I just recently changed my hours to leave earlier. Otherwise, I would have definitely been there. Very freaky. Also, Captain Dana mentioned having to stay overnight in Memphis recently. I have a friend who is a co-owner and chef at Stanley Barbecue in Overton Square, which is less than 15 minutes from the airport. So just thought I'd throw that out there for anyone who is passing through. If you see Chef David, tell him Tanya in New York sent you. We'll do that, Tanya. All the best. And thank you, Tanya. A great pleasure meeting you. I'm glad you're part of our community. And with that, so many more things we wanted to discuss in the show, including somebody that wrote in and asked about Dana's story, how he got here to the majors. And we're going to tackle that on a future episode, maybe the next one.
Sure.
And in the meantime, if you want to learn more about the show, head over to airlinepilotguy.com, where you'll find information about the community, the crew, the coffee fund, merchandise, all kinds of good stuff there. Thanks to Arash Maheen, who, by the way, we'll put a link in the show notes, is still raising money for his ride to cure cancer, which is occurring sometime in a week or two. So meant to talk about that at the beginning of the show. I forgot to. Sorry, Arash. But he does such a great job with our website. He's a webmaster for the website. And let's see, social media. Steph.
Social media. You can find us on Twitter. And I'm back on Twitter now. If you heard that at the very beginning, Twitter decided to kick me off today for some reason. Then
welcome back.
They've allowed me.
We missed you.
Yeah, thank you. It was like 3 minutes worth of not being on Twitter, which, in this day and age is an eternity.
It's forever.
So on Twitter, we are all together at APG Crew. You can go there to tweet at us and we will get back to you, or someone will. You can find all of our individual Twitter information posted at the top of that page as well. You can head over to www.facebook.com/airlinepilotguy. There's information there about interesting stuff that we post or other people post for us, as well as meetups and other general information. And then take it away, Hillel, with Slack.
Okay, Hillel. Hello, are you there? Is he in the bathroom?
He's in the bathroom, actually.
Okay. Somebody go tell him it's time for him to do his thing.
Hey, hello, come back out.
Honestly, we have this somewhere. It's HI11E1. Well, I'm going to put it in.
Okay.
You're not hearing it on the video, but if you listen to the audio, you'll hear Hillel do his very wonderful thing about Slack. Thank you, Hillel. Appreciate you letting us know about that wonderful perpetual chat room called Slack. You want to be a Slacker? Contact Hillel. He knows all about it. Sorry. And finally, until next time, wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care, and God bless.
Cheers, y'all.
Good night.
We did it!
Yay!
Pretty nice. All right.
Good job, team.
Hey, it was nice to be here with you guys.
Yeah.
Getting the inside scoop.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Oh, thank you
Yeah,
very much.
yeah,
Thanks again for
privatization
making the run.
I know, right? We'll have a talk with you. HR will have a talk with you about that one, Dana.
Good luck.
Last time we see Dana on the show.
There is a safety concern too with privatization, because suppose I'm an instrument rated pilot and I got to pay for an instrument approach to an airport. And I left my airport and I'm VFR and I'm tooting along, and now I got to get to an airport, and all of a sudden it's sucked in a little bit. Maybe it's right at minimums. I'm gonna go in right at that minimums if I'm not gonna pay. If I have to pay for the ILS approach, let's say, I'm not gonna do it, right? I'm gonna try to get in under those minimums. So there is a safety concern there too as well.
Okay, so let me throw this at you. Right now, you're paying roughly 20 cents a gallon. I don't know what the number is. Let's say it's 20 cents a gallon to be able to fly an airplane. Let's say you're paying 20 cents less a gallon because that tax goes away, because now it's a
Negligible.
That's if that tax goes away.
If the tax goes away.
Exactly. And also, you're also talking about the FAA, the air traffic control system, has a couple of $1 billion worth of assets between real estate, buildings, and all the other things that they have, the equipment. Now you're talking about basically just giving that, all those billions of dollars to a private company. That just doesn't pass the smell test with me either.
well, but it's a lease lending. It's a lend lease. I mean, you're not actually giving it to them. You're allowing them to pay rent on it.
I don't know. I haven't seen the details on that, but so far what I've heard about it really does not pass the smell test with me.
Yeah, it's just.
I'm not a big fan of it. Don't get me wrong. What I'm doing is being devil's advocate, because I think that if we come out and we say we absolutely support this 100% we can't do this. We're against it completely, right?
Well, and I don't disagree with you that, there are changes that need to be made for the sake of efficiency, and Charlotte's a wonderful, glaring example of that. As much as I love this town and this city, it's I hear stories like that all the time. It's you get these horrible, really long, extended downwinds and long finals, and takes up a lot of time, and there's a long, line or queue to get.
We've added a runway in the last decade.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, they're supposed to actually.
1836s,
Yeah.
right side to left.
I just think it's a matter of poor management.
It's poor management is what it is, and it's a local problem.
Yeah, it is a local problem.
It's not a
even
FAA problem.
it goes all the way down to our local operations.
Yeah, I mean,
our operations here. I love, as I mentioned before, I love Steph and I love the people of Charlotte. I love the city, but that darn airport, especially our Delta operations there, are just. I can't. I mean, it stresses me out more than LaGuardia does.
It starts off. It truly starts off with the airport management, because I'll tell you what, we were coming in here one day, and there was a Delta pickup truck, maintenance pickup truck.
We're still, by the way, on the video here, so maybe we need to end this broadcast because we're saying words that we are not supposed to.
There will be things edited off.
Pull the plug.
End
Thank you,
of
Lane.
this,
Good
and
point.
yes.
We're gonna pull the plug right now. So
Bye. Good
everybody,
night.
great to see you. Thanks for hanging with us.
I love you guys. Bye.
Bye.